On a 90-degree day in Fort Worth, Texas, a sellout crowd is filing into Amon G. Carter Stadium for a huge battle in the Big 12 between two of the top 13 teams in the country. Number 8, Oklahoma State, and number 13, TCU. Sonny Dykes is 5-0 in his first year as head coach of the Horned Frogs. His quarterback, Max Duggan, one of the great stories in college football this season. Oklahoma State is led by Spencer Sanders, a 4-year starter. An outstanding quarterback play. One of the biggest reasons why these two teams are tied for third in the nation in scoring offense at 46.4 points per game behind only Ohio State and Tennessee. We expect a shootout in the Big 12 today. This is the Big 12 on ESPN. Welcome to ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Arby's. One of the big games in stadium history, and another sellout crowd here. Sean McDonough along with Todd Blackledge, delighted to have you with us. If you're watching Game Day this morning, you know there has been some speculation about the status of Spencer Sanders. So let's get right down to the field to Molly McGrath and get more on that. Molly?
Well, Sean, Cowboys quarterback Spencer Sanders did not practice all week with an injury to his right throwing shoulder and his knee, but head coach Mike Gundy tells us he will start and they trust that he'll be ready to play today. Gunnar Gundy will be the backup if Sanders is further injured, but Mike Gundy's message to Spencer Sanders is you have to do a better job of avoiding hits, but you can't let your injuries affect the way that you play. If you have to run with the football, go for it and play your game. Sean, Todd.
So he will make his 38th career start in this very important Big 12 game. Teams getting ready to take the field. So, Todd, we're not certain about the extent of Sanders' injuries, but how do you think this might affect the game?
Well, he's got to be himself. I mean, this is not going to be a game like last year where they blew TCU out, ran for over 400 yards. They're going to have to score, and he's going to have to do what he does. Run, throw, lead, play with tempo. He's got to be great today for Oklahoma State.
Good job by you competing with the Froghorn as the Horned Frogs take the field here. We mentioned their quarterback, Max Duggan, really a terrific story.
You love it, right? I mean, he's a 3-year starter. He had his ups and downs in his career. New coaches come in. They have a quarterback competition. He doesn't win the job, but he doesn't pout. He doesn't cry, doesn't transfer. He stays, puts the team first. And in the first game, third quarter, injury to Chandler Morris, he's back in, and he has played lights out ever since, completing over 70% of his passes, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception, getting the ball to the playmakers. It's been a fun thing to watch.
A couple of terrific dual threat quarterbacks on display in this very important game. Their names started to be mentioned in Heisman Trophy consideration. Both quarterbacks, when we visited yesterday, said their only thought is on winning this game. It's the first time since 2015 that two Big 12 teams 5-0 or better are going head-to-head. The opening kickoff in a moment. Well, it's been a great stretch for TCU football last couple of weeks. Rousing win here over Oklahoma. In front of the biggest crowd since they renovated the stadium 11 years ago. And then in a battle of two unbeatens last week up in Lawrence, they gave Kansas its first loss of the season. A terrific game that wasn't decided until the last minute and a half. So a lot of excitement here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex about Sonny Dykes' team, and what a great job he has done taking over a program that was under 500 by a game over the last 4 seasons.
You know, and he told us he's used to doing takeover jobs, right? This is the 4th one he's had, and usually the first year is really difficult. And he says this first year, for whatever reason, has been a lot easier. And the guys have just been great to work with. They love to practice. They love to play football. Mike Gundy, meanwhile, the opposite. I mean, just a guy who has been so consistent and so good at Oklahoma State.
154 wins. Only Nick Saban, Kirk Ferentz, and Dabo Swinney at Alabama, Iowa, and Clemson have won more games at their current schools than Gundy has won at his alma mater. They've had 16 straight winning seasons. We mentioned it's 90 degrees. The feels like temperature with a little bit of humidity, although it's not oppressive, as you see, is 92. There is a bit of a breeze blowing from the far side of the field toward the near side. Oklahoma State won the toss and deferred, so TCU will receive, and Logan Ward will kick off on this immaculate grass field. And he bombs one out of the back of the end zone. So here comes Max Duggan, the 21-year-old from Council Bluffs, Iowa. As Todd said, he was a 3-year starter the previous 3, under 500 as he battled injuries, lost the competition in the preseason to Chandler Morris, who got hurt in their opener at Colorado. Duggan was terrific and has remained that. He's leading the conference in completion percentage and touchdown passes. This is his 5th start of the year. The previous 4 all wins over Tarleton State, SMU, and as we mentioned, Oklahoma and Kansas the last couple of weeks. They run the version of the air raid offense, and they come out throwing immediately. Darius Davis, the reception for a 2-yard gain.
Yeah, a lot of responsibility on the quarterback in this offense, but they try to keep it simple so they can play fast, and he can play fast and read fast. And again, he's got so many playmakers on the outside to get the ball to.
Both of these teams have plenty of players who can make big plays. It's an explosive TCU team. Duggan showed his dual threat ability there. He ran to the 30-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 5.
This Oklahoma State defense, new coordinator Derek Mason. They're very veteran up front. They're inexperienced in the back. They've given up a lot of pass yards per game, but they've been excellent on 3rd down as we face the first 3rd down situation of the game.
Horned Frogs 49.2, 18th in the country on 3rd down. Duggan, low throw, diving catch. Will they give him the 35-yard line? It does not appear that they will. Darius Davis, another reception, and it's going to be 4th down and less than a yard, and Sonny Dykes has the offense on the field.
Well, they could try to just draw them off sides or just trust this offensive line. It's been a really good unit led by their transfer center, Roland Ali.
Came over with Coach Dykes from SMU.
You're running right into the teeth of the strength of this Oklahoma State defense, which is that front 4.
Will they snap it? Duggan keeps looking to the sideline for guidance. The play clock is not running. And there's a flag down.
I think they wanted to punt the football anyway. I think they were seeing if they could get an offside. That's respect.
Offense.
That's respect for the defensive front that Oklahoma State has.
We are told that the play clock on the field was running. It was our play clock on your screen that was not running, so it is a delay. Kevin Boitman is the referee leading the Big 12 crew. Brennan Presley is back for the punt from Jordy Sandy, 29-year-old Australian. He's the younger of the 2 punters here today. Beautiful kick and a fair catch made. None of Sandy's punts have been returned this year. All of them hung up high and not returned. So here comes Sanders, and we'll see how Spencer is able to play today. 22 years old from not far away in Denton, Texas. Making his 38th career start, 29-8 as the starter. The last 6 games takes you back to their Fiesta Bowl win against Notre Dame a year ago. 16 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions.
Now, we had him in the Big 12 championship game. Before that bowl game, he threw 4 interceptions. Was not his best effort, but he has been outstanding since.
And he is going deep on 1st down. Nothing wrong with the arm on that one, and an incomplete pass. Trying to get it to Braden Johnson with Josh Newton in coverage.
Well, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, this is good to see 2 things. 1, Sanders' arm looks okay, and 2, Braden Johnson is on the field. There was some question whether he would be healthy enough to play. He's their deep threat receiver. Both guys involved on play number 1.
Dominic Richardson, the running back. They've had trouble getting the running game going. Quick throw, caught, and about an 8-yard gain. Brennan Presley tackled by Josh Foster. It's 3rd down, about 1.5 yards to go for a Cowboys first down.
Oklahoma State plays with tempo. Veteran quarterback allows him to play fast.
Richardson, powerful runner, breaks the tackle and almost broke free. He's down at the 42. Travius Hodges-Tomlinson, a terrific cornerback, made the stop. They do play very quickly. 3rd fastest team in snapping the ball, behind only Ole Miss and Tennessee.
Now, the reason they're holding up here, there was a substitute. Allows TCU a chance to respond.
1st and 10, Oklahoma State. Some trickery,
looked like
a reverse, and now a flea flicker, and a man wide open. And just barely tripped up is Braden Cassidy, or that would have been a touchdown. The 37-yard gain.
Beautiful job by Cassidy, showing block, hesitating, not being in a hurry to show that play, and then breaking wide open down the sideline.
Just his 2nd catch of the year. The first one went for a loss of 5 yards. Native Texan back in his home state. He's from Austin, out of a powerhouse, Westlake High School. They're at the 20 of TCU. High snap through the hands of Sanders, and he falls on it back at the 28.
John, this was a bit of a problem last week. Some high snaps. Now, Preston Williams was the starting center. He got hurt. They brought in Joe Mahalski, number 66, as his backup. And there was another high snap.
Eli Russ is in there now. He'd be their 3rd string center. Ordinarily a guard, but he's playing center right now.
Yeah. Whenever you put a big nose tackle right over the face of the center, it causes him to be a little jittery and sometimes misfire on the snap.
Better snap this time. TCU brought extra rushers. Sanders runs away. Sanders inside the 5. Touchdown. Well, his shoulder and his legs looked fine on that opening possession. The question is, did he stay in bounds the whole way? And it appears that he did.
Mike Gundy said, you've got to do a better job of protecting yourself. You see on the progressive pylon cam, he stays in bounds. One way to protect himself is to not get hit. He just outran the edge of the TCU defense for the game's first touchdown.
29-yard touchdown for Sanders. His 7th rushing touchdown of the season. Tanner Brown for the extra point. And it is good. He's never missed one in his career. Now 63 for 63.
Well, beautiful first drive for Oklahoma State when they got the football. The flea flicker, Cassidy does a nice job of selling it. Good protection. Sanders finds him wide open. And then Spencer Sanders, feeling the rush from Dylan Horton, eludes it and gets all the way to the end zone. Oklahoma State up 7-zip.
Back at sold-out Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth on the campus of TCU. A view from the AT&T 5G Skycam. Impressive start for Oklahoma State. Winners of 19 of their last 21. Darius Davis is going to try to return it, and a bad decision. He got yanked down at the 17-yard line by Ty Williams.
Take a look at the last drive. This was the flea flicker, 38 yards. Beautiful job by Braden Cassidy selling it, getting himself open, and then Spencer Sanders does what Spencer Sanders does. Nothing there, feels the rush, takes it himself, and outruns the TCU defense. You wonder how much no practice does it affect. He's smart enough and experienced enough in the offense. He just needed the mental reps, and he didn't show any signs of rust there.
Yeah, he's practiced a lot.
Yeah.
5th-year senior. As we mentioned, they're all-time leading quarterbacks. Nice run on first down by Kendre Miller, their leading rusher for the season. He got 11 and a first down.
TCU going fast. Little difference in their style.
Out wide to Tay Barber. Nice run after the catch, and another first down. Out at the 42-yard line, Xavier Benson made the tackle for Oklahoma State. That's a 15-yard pickup, 17 after the catch.
This offense is built on big plays. A lot of big runs over 10 yards, passes over 20 yards. One of the best in the country all season so far.
Max Duggan. Another quick throw out to the near side. Darius Davis. He's one of those guys who makes some big plays. 51-yard touchdown last week against Kansas. They have 7 plays of 50 yards or more, and they're leading the nation in that category, and 8.1 yards per play. Duggan well protected against a 3-man line and slides down short of the first down. They'll mark it where he started the slide. That's the 47-yard line, so they're going to need 5 on 3rd down.
Mentioned this Oklahoma State defense, experience up front, inexperience in the back 7. This defense last year, I mean, one of the oldest teams you could see, especially in the back 7. They had a 6th-year senior, they had a 5th-year senior, 4 seniors, and a redshirt junior, Derek Mason, taking over for Jim Knowles, is trying to bring this back 7 along game by game.
Jim Knowles left after last year to go to Ohio State. Deflected pass, and it falls incomplete.
2 for 2 stops on 3rd down by this Oklahoma State defense.
Sione Asi made the tip. Veteran defensive line, to say the least. Brock Martin is 23, Brendan Evers 24, Asi's 26, and Tyler Lacey is 22 across the defensive front for the Cowboys. Brennan Presley is back deep. Dangerous return man. Sandy, another high kick. TCU still has not given up a punt return yard all season. That one is a 32-yard kick.
College football on ABC is presented by Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats.
For Oklahoma State, win a conference championship if you score in all likelihood. And perhaps the CFP. Jackson trying to turn the corner, and he did not get there. Jaron McFay raced him to the pylon and made sure he came up inches short. Our crew is privileged to be there. Excruciating loss for Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game after they rallied from a big deficit to get in position to win. Their only loss against a ranked team in their last 8. 7-1 in the last 8 against the top 25 and playing number 13 today, leading 7-0. Spencer Sanders runs out of bounds. I mean, that close perhaps to getting into the college football playoff had Desmond Jackson been able to get to that pylon.
Yeah, I think they would have been in. You know, a great season and very different than this season. Last year, one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the country, along with an offense that was good, but not playing at the same level of productivity as they are this year, scoring and total yards. And their defense this year, kind of still a work in progress. So Mike Gundy adapts to what his strength of his team is. I think he's very underappreciated.
I agree completely. Here's Presley. He got knocked down at the 41-yard line. Took a hard hit, but has a 14-yard gain and a first down. Should mention that the TCU secondary today is playing without Millard Bradford, ordinarily a starter. They started the same 11 in each of the first 5 games this year. John Paul Richardson, the catch. Abe Kamara, a good tackle in the open field to hold that to a gain of 3.
It's a 3-3-5 defensive structure for TCU. That's new this year. Joe Gillespie, the new defensive coordinator, came from Tulsa. And Oklahoma State's coach is very familiar with him at Tulsa. They played him several times.
There's a blitz and a great call against it, a screen. Dominic Richardson finally ripped down at the 32-yard line. Powerful runner, and he showed some agility with a leap over a would-be tackler near the end of the run.
Well, you saw the wide receiver on the crackback block. That was the man responsible for covering Richardson out of the backfield. Beautiful job setting that up and executing it for a big game.
It's TCU that's been the big play-making team all year, but it's Oklahoma State early, putting up big play after big play. That one for 23. Richardson runs hard. Casey Dunn, the offensive coordinator, told us Richardson will run through your face.
Yeah.
That sounds painful.
Physical downhill guy, not as dynamic as Jaylen Warren was last year, but a very dependable back in this offense.
They fake that reverse again, and the pass is incomplete over the head of another of their cowboy backs, the tight end hybrid, Jake Schultz, who came as a walk-on linebacker, now on scholarship.
They don't target those guys very much, but 2 times in the first quarter they've targeted that position. One big completion and a near miss on that one.
3rd down and 6. They are on the fringe of field goal range for Tanner Brown. Oklahoma State leading 7-0 with under 6 minutes to go in the opening quarter. Sanders throws, caught, and a first down. John Paul Richardson battled to the 20-yard line.
That was a good read by Spencer Sanders. He had 3 receivers out there, and TCU kind of played off coverage on the middle of those 3 receivers. Just a little stop route beyond the marker, and Sanders able to complete it very easily. Off to a great start.
Leading the Big 12 in total offense, and already 120 yards of total offense here in the first quarter. Averages 327 per game. That's 11th in the country.
The red zone is an area where he is a runner a lot. 19 red zone carries coming into today.
They brought pressure, didn't get near. Richardson, another catch, another first down. Well, maybe Sanders should just take the week off of practice every week. He is ultra sharp here early on. That's a 12-yard pickup.
Excellent protection, too. I mean, he's been clean in the pocket. He's been able to stay in there, go through his progressions.
His parents are here, Carrie and David. First and goal. Oklahoma State has taken this sellout crowd out of it very early. Sanders, quarterback draw. Sanders, touchdown! I don't think the play callers, Todd, are worried about his shoulder or his leg when they're calling a quarterback draw down near the goal line.
Well, he's a tough guy. He's a great competitor. He prides himself on his toughness. And again, in the red zone, he's one of the best in the country at running the football. And you pick up an extra blocker with the back. You got a guy as fearless as a runner as he is, even with a bum shoulder. Hard to defend. You see 2 great blocks. When you run, quarterback draw, you get an extra blocker. Here's Richardson. He's going to get a block here, and watch the center get here on the middle linebacker. Sanders sets it up. Both linebackers are accounted for, and Spencer Sanders gets it in the end zone.
Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, celebrating the challenge of road games everywhere. Are you ready for the road? Goodyear, more driven. Oklahoma State ready for the road. They've driven down the field twice and scored 2 touchdowns on runs by Spencer Sanders. Here's Kevin Nagandi.
Doing another top 15 matchup in Knoxville. Number 6 Tennessee already up 7-0 on number 3 Alabama. Dan, there's Bryce Young on 2nd and 19.
You know what a difference it makes. He looks awful healthy coming back from that injury right there. The threat of the passing game opens up the run game, and Jahmyr Gibbs, great feet and speed to get in the end zone.
We are tied at 7 apiece in the first quarter. Back to you, Sean.
Thank you. 5 ranked versus ranked matchups on this college football weekend, including here today in steamy Fort Worth. Temperature in the low 90s now. Max Duggan zings one, caught. Quentin Johnston circled back and then did get the first down by about 2 yards. Coming up next on ABC, number 4 Clemson against Florida State. Clemson's riding the longest winning streak in the country. They've won 12 in a row. 6-0 for the 7th time over the last 8 seasons. Talk about consistent excellence. A little quick pop out to the multi-talented Quentin Johnston, who had 14 catches at Kansas last week. He got 9 on that play.
Well, the thing about him is he's 6'5", but he's explosive. And when we talked to Sonny Dykes, I've never seen a guy that tall that also has that kind of burst and explosiveness. Only had 12 catches prior to last week and just lit it up in Lawrence last week. And he is just a big play guy. I mean, he is great after the catch as well.
Part of the reason he had just the 12 catches, he's battled some injuries. He's fully healthy now. Big hole and a first down to the 44-yard line. Amari DiMercado on the run, the senior from Inglewood, California.
Yeah, a little lead play here. Nice job by Jared Wiley, number 19, coming in there.
Whistles stop the play.
Well, start. Number 79, offense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Steve Avila, the left guard, one of their team captains. Right down the road in Arlington, Texas. Veteran offensive line, 142 combined career starts, including today. Both sides have a lot of experienced players along the O-line. They're giving Oklahoma State time to substitute. Brock Martin not in any big hurry. And because they're taking so much time, the play clock is running, and now a flag is thrown by the back judge, who's in charge of the play clock.
Before the play clock expires, TCU calls their first charge timeout of the half. It will be 30 seconds.
And Sonny Dykes is irate. I mean, he's saying, I think, Todd, I had to use the timeout because you allowed so much time for Oklahoma State to substitute.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State was very casually substituting. Brock Martin was coming into the game, and he was just kind of jogging half speed. And first of all, what happened was Sonny wanted to get a different running back in. He was putting Kendre Miller in. And once that happened, they had to stand over the ball and allow Oklahoma State time, and Oklahoma State just took their time. They weren't rushing the situation at all, and it forced Sonny Dykes to use a timeout.
And he is livid. In our experience, I'm kind of a laid-back West Texan, but not right now. The son of the great Spike Dykes, longtime coach at Texas Tech. Let's bring in our referee quickly, Matt Austin. Matt, how should they handle that situation?
Well, it all depends on when the offense substituted, how much time there was on the clock. Once they declare their man, the defense has 3 seconds to begin their substitution, but they need to be quick about it. They don't have to sprint, but they do need to do it expeditiously.
Yeah, they weren't really expeditious. Here's a deep throw. Man is open, and it is caught at the 1-yard line by Quentin Johnston.
It's the height and his ability to go up and catch it at the top of the jump, because there's a safety coming to make a play. But Flanagan is too late to get there.
48-yard gain now on 1st and goal. Kendre Miller stopped in his tracks just shy of the goal line.
Sean, that was basically double coverage with a corner and a safety converging on the receiver. But he used that big frame and leaping ability and went up and made the play.
Brendan Evers is the injured defensive lineman. Tyler Lacey just made the stop on 1st and goal after the 48-yard completion to Quentin Johnston, whose 14 catches last week are the most any receivers had in the country this season. Only Evan Hull, as a running back, matched that total with 14 for Northwestern against Duke earlier this year.
Sean Michael Flanagan, the safety, was just trying to go for a tackle. He wasn't going for the ball. And that allowed Quentin Johnston to go up top and get the football. Been targeted 3 times so far early in this game, 3 catches. And I wouldn't be surprised on this play maybe to take a shot on a quick fade to either he or Savion Williams, two of their big-bodied receivers.
Well, Sonny Dykes is a smart man. When he got this job at the end of last season, one of the first things he did was get in the car and drive to see Quentin Johnston and his family in Temple, Texas. And sometimes you need to re-recruit players who are already on the team. Want to make sure Quentin knew the plan and wanted to stick around. I formation, Miller the tailback. Miller! No indication of a touchdown. And it'll be 3rd and goal from inside the 1. And now flags come down with some extracurriculars well after the whistle.
Xavier Benson, number 1, with a real strong tackle right in the hole. That's what stopped Miller. It looked like Miller was going to have a crease to the end zone, and Benson filled that hole quickly and knocked him backwards. Well, Kendry Miller got up.
There is no
and he was
foul on the
upset.
play. It will be 3rd down.
It was actually his own teammate Brandon Coleman who pushed the Oklahoma State defender on top of Miller. So that was a good job by the officials, just waving that off and no foul. And 3rd and goal now from inside the 1.
Brent Matisic brought in as a fullback, trying to lead the way for Miller. They have taken him out of the game. They have 2 receivers bunched wide to the right. Miller on the left hip. It's a run for Duggan and a TCU touchdown. Well, we've had 3 touchdowns in this game, all of them scored on runs by the quarterback. 4th rushing TD of the season for Max Duggan.
Same philosophy. You know, you get an extra blocker with the back. Your quarterback is a fearless runner. And you get it in the end zone. You get stoned on 1st and 2nd down, and he gets the touchdown on 3rd down.
23rd career rushing touchdown. And the extra point is good from Griffin Kell. Well, Sonny Dykes didn't stay mad for long.
See, it was a late substitution by TCU. They were trying to get a different back in the game. It was a late substitution, and now it's kind of a casual substitution for Oklahoma State. And pretty soon, Sonny Dykes had to use a timeout, and a good thing he did. Didn't put him behind the chains. And shortly after that, they got the long ball to Quentin Johnston to set up the Max Duggan 1-yard touchdown.
Well, I would say, after watching that, with as late as they substituted, I know the Oklahoma State guy
it was a late
expeditious
substitution
to use Mats, but I think you're asking for that when you substitute that late. But it's all water under the bridge, although they did use a timeout. Well, as we said, these 2 teams tied for 3rd in the country in scoring, so this first quarter, no surprise.
The only question right now is, does TCU have any answers on defense for this Oklahoma State offense and Spencer Sanders?
Jaden Nixon brought it out of the end zone, the Luke Laminack kickoff, and he's down just shy of the 25. Here's Kevin.
Sean, here's the Week 7 midday window on the ESPN family of networks over on ESPN right now. Arkansas on the road at BYU just tied it up. Raheem Sanders at 7 apiece. Auburn Ole Miss about to restart on ESPN News. That's underway after a lightning delay. We have Syracuse undefeated up 10-3 over on the ACC network, and Georgia #1 in the land already up 2 touchdowns against Vandy on the SEC network. Back to you, Sean.
All right, great window, a lot of great action, including here in Fort Worth. Oklahoma State on offense for the third time. They've had 2 touchdown drives. Dominic Richardson stopped for virtually nothing. Here's Molly McGrath.
Well, quarterback Spencer Sanders showing no sign of slowing down. You can see his determination on the sidelines, telling teammates, we can't let up. We need to keep our foot on the gas. And Brennan Presley told me he's the most competitive person I've ever met. He doesn't just want to win. He wants to destroy you. And you can see the look in his eyes. He's in destroy mode now, guys.
Here's Richardson. Trying to cut it up between the hash marks. Dumped at the 26. It'll be 3rd down and 7.
Well, it was interesting. Mike Gundy said this offensive system that he's had in place for about 15 years is easy for every position to learn except the quarterback. It takes the quarterback longer, and Spencer Sanders now has full mastery of it.
Credits Tim Rattay, the quarterback coach, for helping him. Flag down before the snap. The crowd fully engaged now.
Ball starts. Number 70, offense. 5-yard penalty. Still 3rd down.
Hunter Woodard, the right guard, one of those veterans, making his 28th career start.
Well, this is the opportunity for TCU's defense. They have not had any answers. They've not slowed them down. They got the penalty now in 3rd and long. They got to be aware of their rush lanes on Spencer Sanders, though, and his ability to run.
Play clock running down to 5. Final seconds of a very entertaining opening quarter. Sanders all day to throw, and it's incomplete. Out in front of his intended target, Braden Johnson. Travius Hodges Tomlinson had the coverage. He's the nephew of LaDainian Tomlinson, the great TCU running back, Pro Football Hall of Famer, who's on the board of trustees here at his alma mater. His nephew's a terrific player. 2 times first-team All-Big 12. Here's Tom Hutton, the 32-year-old punter, oldest player in college football. It's muffed and free and recovered by Oklahoma State. Darius Davis muffed the punt.
Whenever you have 2 highly matched teams like this game, turnovers and edge games into special teams become a factor. This is both a muffed punt, a turnover, and Oklahoma State, after being stopped on 3rd and long, has new life with the ball.
Jaden Nixon recovered it for the Cowboys. This season, Allstate will celebrate every field goal and extra point made by participating universities by making a donation to the university's General Scholarship Fund. Thank you, Allstate. And here's a look at the Taco Bell Live Más student section. Student sections across the country competing to be the Live Más student section of the year all season long. TCU, beautiful campus, about a little less than 10,000 undergrads.
Bryson Green right here, their leading receiver, has not been targeted yet today. Wouldn't be surprised to see Oklahoma State take a shot after that sudden change, getting the ball back, get him the football.
Darius Davis, the muff punt. Oklahoma State, great field position of the 24 of the Horned Frogs. Here comes that reverse action again. Brennan Presley. Is he down? Apparently not. He got back up, might have lost a half a yard or so. Finally, Mark Perry, the transfer from Colorado, made the play.
Now that was well defended. Did not fool that. When you run a reverse, you hope to get a fast flow defense going one way. And they were not fooled. They defended it well. Actually got him for no gain.
Four wide receivers, 3 to the short side left. And it's single coverage up top. Well defended and almost intercepted. Braden Johnson was the intended receiver and Josh Newton at inside position.
Oklahoma State got away with a penalty there too because the right tackle jumped early. It was not picked up. They were able to get the play off, but it was still well defended in the corner of the end zone.
Like a couple of times the right tackle might have moved early. It's Jason Brooks Big number 73, a transfer from Vanderbilt, has been battling Jake Springfield for the playing time at right tackle. Third down and 10. They are in field goal range. They sneak in a run with Dominic Richardson. And he got stacked up well short of the first down. D. Winters at the bottom of the pile. Senior, one of their team captains out of Brenham, Texas, between Houston and Austin.
Well, that's a good stop for this TCU defense. They have not been able to slow them down too much. They got the stop and then the muff punt. They had to come right back on the field. That's Joe Gillespie, the new defensive coordinator. You hold him to a field goal attempt, that's pretty good.
It's Tanner Brown, who has not missed one all year. 8 for 8. This is a 35-yard try.
He's wearing bike shorts.
Well, whatever works. That one was right down University Drive. Yeah, that's interesting. It was set up by the muff punt by Davis, recovered by Nixon. Showing a lot of leg. He got a lot of leg into that one. It's 17-7. Time for the Aflac trivia question. TCU national championships in 1935 and 38. We want to know who was their head coach. The kickoff down to the goal line. And Amari DiMercado stopped shy of the 20-yard line. I have a feeling you know the answer. Nice tackle there by Lamont Bishop. Do you want to guess or do you know? A little bit before your time. The answer to the Aflac trivia question is Dutch Meyer in the College Football Hall of Fame. There's a restaurant nearby, Dutch's Hamburgers. I mentioned a great article about Sonny Dykes yesterday on ESPN.com by Dave Wilson. If you didn't see it, read it. Fight him till hell freezes over, then fight him on the ice was the legendary quote by Dutch Meyer. Pass incomplete by Duggan, intended for Aquarius Spivey. But they talked about how when Sonny Dykes first got here, he went to Dutch's, placed an order for some food and a drink, and the server said, "Can I get a name for the order?" He said, "Bob."
Right.
And nobody recognized him.
Right.
They recognize Sonny Dykes around the campus and in the Metroplex now. Duggan given a lot of time. Oklahoma State only rushed 2, and his throw's a little too high. And that's hard to do when you throw it toward Quentin Johnston. Every bit of 6'4", and with some significant leaping ability, a 42-inch vertical.
The thing about this Oklahoma State defense, even though they are inexperienced in the back part of their defense, the 5 defensive backs, the 2 linebackers, because of their depth and veteran experience up front, they rush 4. They don't blitz that often. They feel like they can get enough pressure on the quarterback rushing 4. That allows 7 to drop into coverage. And you can help out younger guys with more bodies. You don't put them on islands as much when you can rush with 4.
They rush 4. They twist it inside. The pass incomplete. Intended for Gunnar Henderson. And it's a quick 3 and out. And that muff punt really changed the game.
Yeah, that was Colin Oliver, the youngest guy on that defensive front. We saw him as a freshman last year. He was a terror rushing the passer. He was the guy in there forcing the errant throw by Duggan on that one.
So Jordy Sandy on to punt.
The offense was in a substitution mechanic. It will be 4th down.
And Sonny Dykes.
Please reset the game clock to 13:08. 13:08 on the game clock.
Has no
please.
problem with that. Well, we thought he had no problem with that. So Jordy Sandy will punt. You mentioned he's 29 from Australia. Tom Hutton, the punter for Oklahoma State's 32 from Australia. Wow, he did a good job of fielding that snap. And they are friends. They knew each other. That ball hit Presley, I believe. There's a flag down. Brennan Presley was the deep man.
I think a TCU coverage man bumped into Presley.
And that's probably the reason for the flag.
Yeah,
the kick catch interference. Been an adventure on the last couple of punts. We mentioned the punters know each other. They worked in a paper mill together back outside of Melbourne, Australia, before they each came over to the States. Both are 4-year starters now at their respective schools.
Kick catching interference. Number 81 of the kicking team. 15-yard penalty for the spot of the foul. First down, Oklahoma State. Media timeout.
Oh, there he is.
Well, we'll take a deeper dive into this when we come back.
Back at TCU 17-7 Oklahoma State. The last punt play, the penalty was on number 3, Amari DiMercado for 3. Watch, he's too close. He's got to give Presley room to make the catch. The ball actually hits him in the head. They could have called a couple different things there, but he was definitely too close to Presley and resulted in the penalty.
It doesn't matter that they recovered it, and special teams problems hurting TCU as the ball gets moved into Horned Frog territory at the 47-yard line. Sonny Dykes' team really hasn't hurt itself much this year. They were +4 in turnover margin entering today. It only turned it over 3 times all season. They had the muffed punt for a turnover that led to 3 points. Now they have a penalty while covering a punt. Here comes Spencer Sanders. Already 149 total yards. He's rushed for both of their touchdowns, matching his career high in rushing touchdowns for a single game. 3rd time he's done it. And for the 2nd week in a row. He did it twice last week in their come from behind win over Texas Tech in Stillwater. Wheel route, man open, and through the hands of Jaden Nixon. Beautiful call and a play that should have gone for a lot of yards for the Pokes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that you call on a first down. You had plenty of time to talk about it. You put Nixon in place of Richardson because he's got a little bit more juice. And it was a good call and a good execution. Just couldn't come up with the catch.
They fake the delay to Nixon. Sanders flushed.
Wow.
With the pump fake, he got a little more yardage for himself to the 39-yard line. Timon Mitchell, transfer from Georgia, had the pressure.
Yeah, watch D. Winters, number 13, get fooled by the pump fake. He went inside with the pump fake and lost contain on the quarterback, and Spencer Sanders got a few more yards.
3rd down and 2, perhaps 4-down territory. Probably not in field goal range. They haven't attempted a 50-plus yarder this year. And they're going into a bit of a breeze here in the 2nd quarter. 12 minutes to go till halftime. Cowboys by 10. Richardson has the first down.
You know, again, last year when these two teams played in Stillwater, it was a blowout. 63-17. Oklahoma State won the game. They ran for an amazing 447 yards and 8 rushing touchdowns.
That doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't.
It was the most one-sided win in the history of this rivalry, which dates back to 1915. Up for grabs and incomplete, intended for Stephon Johnson. Josh Newton had the coverage.
Good job by Newton. I mean, because the receiver, Stephon Johnson, who's a freshman, was not kind of fighting to get back inside, and he just kind of worked him to the sideline. You see there's contact, but the receiver's not trying to get back inside and just run him out of bounds.
Newton, another transfer from Louisiana Monroe on the delay. Richardson, a big hole. Dominic Richardson inside the 20. First down, Oklahoma State. A good block by the tackle, Caleb Etienne.
Yeah, it's a pull the backside guard and tackle. One guy leads through, one guy kicks out. Big opening on the right side.
It's a big pulling tackle, Caleb Etienne, who arrived from junior college weighing 380, slimmed down to 330. Ollie Gordon, true freshman running back, in now. They flip it to him. And he is going to do well if he gets back to the line of scrimmage. He will not. Look like they might be setting that up to throw that one.
It looked like he was going to throw it. They did have a receiver running down the field and not blocking. But it did not fool the TCU defense at all. Ollie Gordon is a highly touted recruit, had a costly fumble in the Baylor game at Baylor a couple weeks ago. But he's got a lot of talent.
Arrived in January out of high school. Single coverage in the end zone. And it is broken up by Josh Newton. They brought in 14 transfers and did very well in the portal, including with Josh Newton, now a starting corner. And another transfer, Marcel Brooks, is down on the field.
Yeah, again, perfect position by the corner. Josh Newton gets his head turned around, finds the ball, and really, if it weren't for a good effort by the receiver, that's an interception. The receiver did a nice job of breaking that one up because Newton was in perfect position to pick that one off.
And as they tend to, Marcel Brooks will step aside. We're in the second quarter. Oklahoma State leading by 10.
Booger, Dan, and Kevin back in studio time now for a Mayhem moment brought to you by Allstate. Ton of mayhem here in Knoxville. Headed hooker to Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah, corner has outside leverage. He's expecting help from the safety, but he bites up, Kev.
Hooker giving us some Heisman moments. Here's Hyatt again, Dan.
Yeah, hiding the receiver all the way behind the line of scrimmage on the naked and strike up the Rocky Top.
Rocky Top rolling 21-10 right now in the second quarter, Sean.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Marcel Brooks helped to the medical tent on the TCU sideline. Third down and 13 for Oklahoma State, leading by 10. 10-11 to go till halftime. They are in field goal range. Sanders, single coverage. Richardson made the catch. Looked like he was being held, and he still took it in for a Cowboys touchdown.
Well, beautiful play. Josh Newton, who's been right on point. He's in position, but this time he does not ever see when the ball is being thrown. His eyes were locked on the receiver. And John Paul Richardson, with great concentration, makes a contested catch. Ball thrown in a great spot by Spencer Sanders. And that time, Josh Newton did not get eyes on the football, and the touchdown got thrown over him.
Third touchdown catch of the year for the sophomore from Missouri City, Texas, John Paul Richardson. Tanner Brown, the extra point. John Paul, the son of Bucky Richardson, played at Texas A&M and in the NFL. It's time for Todd's Taste of the Town, brought to you by DoorDash.
Today I'm at Heim Barbecue, and Travis and Emma Heim were high school sweethearts here in Fort Worth. They started pursuing a dream by doing backyard pop-up barbecue dinners, followed by a year in a food truck, and finally in August of 2016 they opened their first restaurant location here on Magnolia Street. Now Heim Barbecue is a dream come true for me too, because they have taken two things I absolutely love: burnt ends, my favorite smoked meat, and bacon, my favorite herb, and blended them together. Magical. And my son likes them too, right?
First time I've ever heard Owen quiet. But why would you be with that kind of food? Your favorite meat? Do you have like a list of meat? Do you rank meats every week?
Yeah, but it changes.
Like
That changes from time to time. But burnt ends, when I had spent time in Kansas City, I found burnt ends and that's my go-to whenever I can find them. And then bacon, I get bacon all the time. So
Darius Davis, dangerous return man, but not having a great day. Well, because I've learned my lesson earlier in the season now on Taste of the Town, that you're not going to bring me food anymore, apparently. I went to Heim Barbecue the other night, and it was really outstanding. Great success story. They started with a food truck.
They started doing these pop-up things. They called them meat clubs, right? They made food for their neighbors and friends, and then they got the food truck, and it was wildly successful. But when they bought the food truck, that was the last money they had in their savings account, and it just took off. And
do you
now,
get like frequent meat points if you join their meat club?
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Yeah, it's a terrific place, and they're expanding. So popular, they're opening a couple more locations. Kendre Miller, the ball carrier. TCU in an unfamiliar position. Entering today, through the first 5 games, they had trailed for only 16.5 minutes all year long, including in the third quarter last week at Kansas when they rallied to win 38-31. The only other game in which they trailed was in the opener against Colorado. They wound up winning that one with relative ease, 38-13. Xavier Benson took down Kendre Miller, and the crowd getting a little restless now.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of time left in the game, obviously, right? But what Oklahoma State's success has done is really neutralize this crowd. They were ready to be fired up, to cheer their team on, to watch them go up and down the field like they've been doing through the first half of the season. And Oklahoma State has really stifled this crowd.
3rd down and 3. Duggan fires. Quentin Johnston in the open field.
That is his patented move, Sean. I mean, he does it all the time. He did it last week against Kansas. He catches it, and almost like a post player in basketball, little head fake and pivot, and he leaves the defender behind, Jabbar Muhammad.
And they try to set up a screen, and it's dropped by Darius Davis.
He did this a couple times against Kansas. It's just a little spin move, and then you see after the catch, he's also big and strong enough to break tackle. What a weapon.
26-yard play. On 2nd and 10, Duggan flushed, and his pass is batted down. Well covered by Jabbar Muhammad. Knocked it away from Johnston. Previous play, 26 yards. Here comes 3rd down and 10 for the Horned Frogs. 8.5 to go till halftime. They're down by 17.
Oklahoma State coming into this game, the book on them was a lot of man coverage. They're playing a lot more zone in this game. Rushing 4, playing more zone. And that's why Max Duggan is having to hold on to the ball a little bit longer than he's used to.
He had trouble with the snap, and now he's going to get yanked by the face mask. Oh, what a big mistake by Trace Ford. It was going to be 4th down and forever and a punt, but he grabbed the face mask.
Yeah, he knew it right away. I mean, he got the pressure.
Personal foul, face mask, number 94, defense. 15-yard penalty, automatic 1st down.
What a huge break for TCU.
Now, can TCU take advantage of it? They have to, right? They just got a gift. Courtesy of Trace Ford, they're deep now in Oklahoma State territory. Can they capitalize with their offense?
Oklahoma State, one of the least penalized teams in the country. Here's Kendre Miller, untouched until he got inside the 20. Shot down at the 18 by Thomas Harper. A 16-yard ramble.
Beautiful block by Wes Harris, the right guard. Little outside zone run that time.
Blistering pace, another high snap. And the Cowboys were ready for Miller that time. He danced near the 16-yard line, where he was stopped by Mason Cobb.
One guy who has not caught a pass yet today, Savion Williams, has been kind of a key guy, number 18. for this offense. He's up here at the top of the screen right now. Quiet so far in this ball game.
Hard to tell where they are with these uniforms, the red numbers. Duggan, the run fake, single coverage, up for grabs for Johnston, and incomplete. Some hand fighting with Jabbar Muhammad, but score that round for Muhammad.
Yeah, that's a confident play by Muhammad. Single coverage, he's got eyes on the football. Both guys got hands on each other, and he knocks it away.
Good view of it from the Progressive Pylon camera. 3rd down and 9. They're at the 17-yard line.
Oklahoma State showing zone again here. Gotta find a hole if you're TCU.
4-man rush. DeMercado has a lot of running to do. He's out of bounds near the 11-yard line. And we'll see how Sonny Dykes elects to play it with 4th down and about 4. He doesn't like to kick field goals. He coached under Mike Leach, who doesn't like field goals. And they've tried only 4 all year. He said, yep, I just don't really like to kick them. And he's not going to try it here.
Wildcat look right now.
Well, and here comes another leisurely substitution.
And the play clock is inside of 5 again.
And they have a strange formation. And they have a trick play. And it's Darius Davis stumbling toward the 11. He didn't get the first down. Jabbar Muhammad was there again. For Oklahoma State, they take over on downs.
Yeah, they got the play off in time, and it was executed pretty well. Duggan gets a block here, but Muhammad comes up and trips him up. And then he's finished off by Thomas Harper. Muhammad with the first contact, trips him up, and Thomas Harper finishes him off short of the first down.
Duggan frustrated again with the substitutions, but TCU's going to have to substitute on offense apparently a bit earlier. Another big play by the Oklahoma State defense. They take over their own 11-yard line. Quick toss to Richardson. Stayed on his feet. Looked like he would be upended behind the line of scrimmage, but he turned it into a gain of a couple. Keon Stewart was the penetrator. They didn't get Richardson down. Richardson again back to the line, and that's it. He had a big game last year against TCU in their 46-point win. They rushed for 134 and 2 touchdowns. Third down and 8 with 5.5 to go till halftime. Sanders deep ball too high. Incomplete over the head of Bryson Green. It was covered by Travius Hodges Tomlinson.
TCU brought pressure that time on Spencer Sanders. It was man coverage, getting a little aggressive there, feeling the need to do that. Got the stop.
Tom Hutton, the punter. Short and end over end, and no fair catch by Davis.
He's got speed.
He has 4 career punt return touchdowns, and a big return to the 30-yard line. Trying to atone for that costly muff in the first quarter. 26-yard return of a 43-yard punt. Now a quick word from Cheez-It.
Man, I make this cheesiest chain look good.
I'm still feeling the cheesiest.
You are a wheel of cheese. Cheez-It, official sponsor of the College Football Playoff.
Well, again, He muffed a punt earlier. He dropped a pass a little bit ago. This time he atones for it by catching it and showing what he can do, which is make people miss and use that speed. Great field position here late in the half for TCU.
The punt return against Colorado that really changed the momentum in their opener. 60-yard score. Kendre Miller up the middle. 5 minutes to go in the half.
Remember, Oklahoma State won the toss and deferred, so they'll get the ball to start the third quarter. A very important stretch in the game right now for TCU.
Duggan throws into traffic, and he's lucky that wasn't picked off. Cam Smith started stumbling as he saw the ball coming in his direction, and he couldn't take it in.
Well, he forced this one. He was forcing. He had a man open on the outside. He was trying to get the ball down the middle of the field. Kind of got locked into one receiver and didn't see the rest of the picture. Lucky it wasn't picked off.
Monty Bailey now the running back. They'll play 5 running backs. Third down and 6. Low throw. Looked like the knee was on the ground, and it was for Davis.
Tell you what, Derek Mason has to be thrilled with the way his defense has played here in the first half. They've been up and down, kind of inconsistent. Coming into the game, giving up over 300 yards a game pass offense. But they have been really solid and have really handed it to Max Duggan and this TCU offense. Again, he stepped into a situation where last year a veteran defense that was outstanding, one of the best in the country, definitely the best in the Big 12, graduated most of those guys in the back 7. Getting better each week.
Griffin Kell trying the field goal, and it is good from 48 yards. His longest of the season, just the 3rd he's attempted. He's made all 3. You're watching ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Arby's.
State Farm halftime report minutes away. Booger McFarland, Dan Mullen, Kevin Nagani. Plenty of great highlights in the big house. Michigan showed up. Right now, Alabama struggling in Knoxville.
Yeah, the most surprising thing, Hendon Hooker coming out playing well, but Tennessee's controlling the line of scrimmage, and that's surprising.
Yeah, the ability to run the football allows them to take their play action shots down the field.
We're seeing also mental mistakes from Alabama. We'll have the highlights coming your way, Sean.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Luke Laminack, a touchback. Spencer Sanders will bring the offense back out with a 14-point lead. Matt Austin, you made a great point during our break. You want to illuminate for our audience?
Yeah, once the offense substitutes, as I said, the defense has 3 seconds to react. That's not 3 seconds per player. And once the center judge leaves behind the center, then the offense can snap the ball. If they would have reacted quickly, they could have caught the defense with 12 men on the field.
Yeah, once the center judge got out of the way, they definitely could have snapped it and caught Oklahoma State with 2 men on the field.
Well, and Max Duggan, he turned to complain, and had he not done that and snapped the ball, they would have gotten the penalty.
That'll be something to keep an eye on in the second half. Dominic Richardson, a short gain. Travius Hodges Tomlinson made the tackle for the Horned Frogs. Spencer Sanders started out 7 for 9 passing. He's 1 for his last 7. He's run for 2 touchdowns and thrown for 1. Flag down in the offensive backfield, and the ball's incomplete. Good position for Braden Johnson, but he couldn't take it in. And it's a holding call against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they'll definitely take the penalty.
Holding. Number 90, offense. 10-yard penalty. Replay second down.
Braden Cassidy, one of their cowboy backs, left side of the line.
There it is, the takedown. A wrestling move. The ball was thrown short, and that's why he was able to kind of get knocked out of there. It wouldn't have counted anyway, but second down and very long now. A lot of time left, both teams with timeouts. Oklahoma State 3, TCU 2.
3 wide receivers, and it's Richardson on the run. Stacked up. And would Sonny Dykes use a timeout here? Probably not, because there's so much time left in the half and his team can score quickly.
It feels like TCU's defense has gotten their cleats in the ground a little bit better here in the last couple possessions. See if Joe Gillespie decides to try to go after Spencer Sanders on this 3rd and long, or just try to keep everything in front.
3rd and 17. They fake to Richardson. They throw incomplete and almost intercepted. Looked like the pass surprised Cassidy, and it clanged right off the safety, Mark Perry.
That is a 2 deep with man underneath, and there was a man running with Cassidy right down the middle of the field. It was good coverage. Spencer Sanders takes a shot after it anyway, and very lucky it wasn't picked off by Mark Perry.
So Gillespie thought his defense had one. Here's Hutton. The punt again. This one's better. And Davis will call for the fair catch and make it. At the 39-yard line. Well, we mentioned the connection between the punters. Tom Hutton, Jordan Sandy, both played Australian rules football growing up. Sure, you can explain the rules to us a little bit later. They worked 12-hour shifts together in a paper mill. And they decided there's got to be something better than this. They went off to Pro Kick Australia in 2017, which has sent so many punters and kickers over here to the United States. Hutton initially recruited and signed by Oklahoma State, and then Sandy recruited by Texas Tech. But when Cliff Kingsbury and the staff got fired, he changed that to TCU. They said that paper mill used to get up to about 120 degrees when they were chopping up the paper. Kendrick Miller, the ball carrier. They are 2 of the 4 oldest players in college football. All of them are punters from Australia.
Apparently tattoos are a big part of
They are.
Fraternity as well.
Oh, a little spin move by Miller and another big gainer. Back-to-back runs for first downs. He's got away from Samuela Tuihalamaka.
Just kind of felt it. He's a quicker athlete than the guy that was trying to tackle him. Spins away from him and adds about 8 more yards. Sonny Dykes thinks he's one of the best running backs in college football.
All day to throw for Duggan. Now running out of time and throws it away at the last minute, incomplete. Ben Kopensky put the pressure on.
See, I think Max Duggan on that one, again, zone defense, they got everybody covered. I think that he's got to just throw it to the back as an outlet. You're going to see the back come out right now. Give him the football. Just give him the ball and see if he can make somebody miss. There's nothing open downfield. Dump it off and let the running back try to make a play.
Duggan is the son of a coach. His dad, Jim, longtime high school coach in Iowa. Duggan, first down inside the 25-yard line. They'll mark it at the 25. Xavier Benson made the stop. It's 12 yards on the ground for Duggan.
Surprised that the clock started. They got the first down chains marked quickly, but the clock never stopped. Minute 5, 2 timeouts left.
Yeah, that's why GCU could take its time now. They have plenty of time.
Back
Duggan
again.
has the man in the flat to his right. There's a flag thrown. 2 flags thrown as the catch was made by Johnston. Trace Ford's helmet came off. He started off the field.
Personal foul, hands to the face, number 74, offense. 15-yard penalty, replay first down. The defensive player may stay in the game.
And that's why he didn't run off the field. He can stay in because of the penalty against Andrew Coker.
There it is, right in the right side of your screen. Andrew Coker, the right tackle, hand up into the face mask. Knocked the helmet off.
It looked like Ford helped knock it off once it started to come loose. The ball's back on the 40. Here we come with substitutions again with the play clock running. And the game clock running. Duggan takes off running.
Got to use a timeout right now.
Yes, you do. 30-yard line is the line of scrimmage for the third down play. And Sonny Dykes still really upset with the officials about this substitution situation. Almost all the way out to the hash marks, and now he's coming way out onto the field.
Please reset the game clock to 29 seconds.
You know, Sonny Dykes is upset, but right now Mike Gundy, even though, as Matt said, he's kind of pushing the envelope on it, he's taking advantage of the rules. And he is, you know, he's very calculated in what he's doing. And, you know, we've seen this before. I mean, last week, one of his players did something that was outstanding, too, in signaling a fair catch on an onside kick. Texas Tech went for an onside kick, and alertly, it was DeMarco Jones signaled the fair catch, which meant you can't recover it. You got to give him a chance to make the catch. It was recovered cleanly by Texas Tech, but not only did they not get the ball, they got a penalty as well.
That's very alert, especially early in the game. Because in the first quarter, they had obviously drilled on that. They knew the rules. The player made a great play, heads up play. So here's 2nd down and 16 from the 31-yard line. 29 seconds to go in the half. They get pressure with 3. Duggan with a flag down, got away, throws it up for grabs in the end zone, and another flag on that end of the play. Sean Michael Flanagan got tangled up with Tay Barber in the end zone. There was also a flag where you would expect an offensive holding call as Coker got tangled up with Colin Oliver.
Yeah, and this is a break for TCU that's going to be offsetting penalties, because this would have backed them up even further. And again, the change to more zone defense by Oklahoma State.
Both teams. Holding number 74 in the offense. Pass interference. Number 18 defense. The foul's offset. Replay 2nd down.
Well, Coker had the penalty a moment ago. This time it's holding on Colin Oliver, their best pass rusher, and then down the field at the end of the play. Clear pass interference on Tay Barber, the intended receiver. But only 19 seconds left now in the half.
And one timeout for TCU. They'll replay 2nd and 16 from the 31. They are in field goal range. DeMercado, they're not fooled. Nope. And they'll have to use that last timeout. Garrett Riley is the play caller, tried to sneak in a run. And the tackle made by Tyler Lacey and Trace Ford.
TCU. It will be 30 seconds.
There's Garrett Riley, 33-year-old offensive coordinator, younger brother of USC head coach Lincoln Riley, 6 years younger. Kick off your Week 6 NFL Sunday at 10 a.m. with the Countdown crew on ESPN and the app. They'll have the early breaking stories, injury updates, previews of each game all the way up to kickoff. And then Monday Night Football caps off Week 6. It's on ESPN, Deportes, and the app. The Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers. Broncos 2-3, the Chargers 3-2. That's Monday night at 8 Eastern time. Well, now if you're TCU, Todd, you have to be careful because you don't have any timeouts.
Yeah.
Of course, they used one early in the game on that substitution situation.
Right. And you've got to come out of here with some points. So you're a little bit further than you want to be for a field goal right now. So a couple quick throws. They've got off coverage right up here. Something quick to the sideline.
Or to the end zone. Duggan wants the sideline. They need to get out of bounds, and he did. Tay Barber. And now a decision to make with 7 seconds to go on 4th down and 2. Do you kick the field goal?
Yeah, I think you need
go
points.
for it?
No, I think you need points here.
and he is going to send the field goal team out.
Again, Oklahoma State will get the ball to start the third quarter. You've got to end the half with some momentum, with some points, and you got to go in the locker room and say, okay, look, we're getting a lot more zone defense than we anticipated. It's frustrating our passing game a little bit. We've got to make some changes and get some zone beaters in there to start the third quarter.
Kell's already connected from 48. This is from 35. From the right hash mark. Coach Dykes doesn't like to kick field goals, but Kell is 4 for 4 as his field goal kicker now this season. 2 for 2 today. 4-year starter. Snap a little high, but a good job by Jordy Sandy to get it down. You have to have good hands to play Australian rules football, I think. I have no idea. A couple of field goals as TCU within 11 as we are seconds from halftime. Aerial coverage high above this beautiful stadium provided by Goodyear. Road tested and game ready. Are you ready for the road? Goodyear, more driven. What are your primary thoughts, Mr. Blackledge, as we approach the half?
Well, I think, there was question about Spencer Sanders. Would he be 100%? Would he be able to do what he does? I think we saw that he could. I mean, he started out super hot throwing the football. He ran for 2 touchdowns. I thought their offense kind of slowed down a little bit towards the end of the half. TCU's defense better. But Oklahoma State's defense has been outstanding for the first 30 minutes. They really frustrated Max Duggan and this high-powered offense. Again, it's an offense that's built on big plays, not 10, 12, 13-play drives. They've been a little bit frustrated.
Luke Laminack, a touchback. And let's look at the day for Spencer Sanders so far.
Well, again, what makes him special, especially as you get closer to the other territory, is his ability to run. It's not there. He can improvise. He can extend plays. And he has the speed and athleticism to outrun the defense. This was a design quarterback run. The first one was a scramble. This design. And a touchdown pass as well. Spencer Sanders putting this one right on the money to his slot receiver. Excellent first half for Sanders.
When we mentioned Tim Rattay, the quarterback coach, has really helped him, particularly with progressions. And you saw it even though he took off running on the first play that we saw there. He waited until, okay, I've gone through my progressions. There's nothing there. Now I'll run rather than take off and run more quickly as he did earlier in his career. So high scoring as expected between the two teams averaging 46 points per game. Here's Molly with Sonny Dykes.
Coach, what are your thoughts on Oklahoma State's substitutions in the first half?
Well, I mean, they're doing a good job of holding them, and we got to get it figured out. I think the officials said they would talk at halftime and hopefully come up with a little bit better plan.
How do you get quarterback Max Duggan going in the second half?
Well, we played about as bad as we could play in the first half. We were still in the ball game, so we just got to get settled in. I think right now we just kind of lost our sorts a little bit and just got to execute. And we're getting into too many third and longs.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Sean.
I think he hit the nail right on the head. Halftime, Oklahoma State 24 and TCU 13. We'll send you to the studio for the State Farm halftime report after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Welcome to the State Farm halftime report.
Right now, Cowboys feeling really good. Spencer Sanders, John Paul Richardson, hold on. Yeah, he got it. They're up by 11 on the road in Fort Worth against TCU. Let's stay in the Big 12. We didn't see a lot of offense from Oklahoma last week. Shutout 49-0. Kansas coming off the loss to TCU. How about the defense showing up for the Sooners?
One-handed pick. Players make plays. That was a big-time defensive play right here.
C.J. Colden.
I use two when you can use one.
Absolutely.
Hey, you know how it is?
Hey, this offense looks completely different when you have Dylan Gabriel. This is what he can do.
Here's the thing I love, the double move. If you're a corner into the boundary, don't bite on the double move. Great pass.
Theo Weiss wide open. Eric Gray, former Tennessee Volunteer. Little cut there, and the Sooners just rolling.
Yeah, you spread the safeties out too high right there. Middle of the field open. They got to stop the pass. Middle of the field wide open for the run.
And in Kansas, their second straight loss. They snap a 3-game losing streak, 52-42. Meanwhile, Texas, they've got Oklahoma State next. coming off that Oklahoma win, Quinn Ewers just showing us the grit here.
One of the best routes you'll see, a little jerk route, planted inside, come back out.
Xavier Worthy had 2 touchdowns. Watch this. Xavier Hutchinson. Oh!
Kev, he's so open. I believe you could have caught that, Kev.
2 hands, I wouldn't have jumped. That's the key.
Maybe he should have just used one.
Oh, this is the hit right there. Hunter Decker's going down hard. Ball recovered by Texas.
Big play by the Texas defense here at the end of the game.
Legal hit, right?
They called the fumble. Legal hit.
Yeah.
Didn't look like it was targeting. And Texas holds on for the win.
Shoulder to shoulder, right? That's the key. They got Oklahoma State next weekend on ABC. Welcome to the studio. Dan Mullen, Booger McFarland, Kevin Nagandi here. In his career at Alabama, Nick Saban is 15-0 against Tennessee. In some trouble in Rocky Top. The game we had circled here. Both teams undefeated. The Volunteers in their offense led by Hendon Hooker. And this is one of those Heisman moments here. Does he have one? The Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah, corner thinks he's got safety help, opens the gate, and the receiver runs right through.
Volunteers, 2 drives, 2 touchdowns. Next drive, it's Hooker to Hyatt again.
Yeah, it's great play action, bringing the receiver from the outside behind the line of scrimmage, opening them up in the flat on the other side of the field.
We don't often see this, and this is a mental mistake on special teams for Bama.
And it's not just this game. We've seen this all season from Bama.
Yeah, just silly mistakes. Right, get away from the ball, and the third guy runs in, touches the ball. Nick agrees.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, Nick, how you doing?
Yes, clean show. Nick Saban furious, and then that would respond to Princeton Fant going in. 28-10 Rocky Top in the first half, and then Bryce Young, he got the start to Ja'Cory Brooks. They're going to need a lot more from Young.
Well, if you're Alabama, you're going to have to outscore Tennessee today because you know this high-powered offense of the ball is going to put up some points, but Bryce Young can't get it done.
28-20 right now. Tennessee, #1 team in the land. That is Georgia, trying to find their offense. They've been stumbling a little bit. And what do you have on the schedule, Vandy? That helps.
This is a good week to find it.
Exactly. Kenny McIntosh going in for the score, and then Stetson Bennett too. They have so many talented tight ends. Here's Darnell Washington.
It is, and I mean, when you're 6'8", all you got to do, again, use one. Why use 2 when you can use 1? Just stabs the one-handed catch.
Soft hands right there, moving the chains. Then Bennett to Dominic Blaylock. You thought Vandy had multiple opportunities here.
They dropped a couple of passes down the sideline to stay in the game, and you can't do that against Georgia.
28-0 right now at the half. Auburn, Ole Miss, and here comes Lane Kiffin, undefeated. But the Tigers not backing down. One reason why, he's their best option. That is Tank Bigsby.
Now, how about the resiliency of Auburn? A lot going on around the head coach, down 21-0. Give it to Tank Bigsby. They ran the ball well.
They did. They ran the ball well. And when you have a guy like him, give him the ball. Yeah. Get a playmaker the ball that get you out of trouble.
You mentioned playmakers. How about the running attack here for Ole Miss? Quinshon Judkins, 448 rushing yards by this team.
3 guys over 100 yards. They run the football downhill. And even when you play the pass, 3rd and 5 above, they run the football. Lane Kiffin, one of the better run game coordinators in college football.
They're 7-0. Next 3 games, LSU, Texas A&M, and then Alabama as Ole Miss gets the win. Coming up, Penn State. They were up at one point, but this one all Michigan on the back end. We'll explain highlights from the Big House after this.
You're watching the State Farm Halftime Report.
One striker.
Look, Dan, Kevin back with your Big House, Big Ten. Here's a couple of undefeated. It's #5 Michigan hosting #10 Penn State. This one all about the ground attack as Michigan up by 1. Donovan Edwards to the house.
Yeah, the Penn State defense held on as long as they could early on, making red zone stops. But eventually, this ground game by Michigan put the game away.
Okay, so you have Edwards. How about Blake Corum? Have a day.
Yeah, 1-2 punch of those 2 guys, both going over 150 yards rushing today. And Michigan looked like a title contender in a top 10 matchup.
Title contender. I like it.
Where would you put Michigan? I mean, they came in at #5 after a game like this.
The key is going to be, we know they can run the football, but when they get against teams of equal talent, can J.J. McCarthy make some big plays down the field?
Edwards 173 on the ground. McCorum 166, 41-17. How about Illinois? Chase Brown getting the ball right here, and they were all over Minnesota. They have the defense, and then they're effective on offense.
The best thing you said about Illinois, Kev, is they're like me. They know who they are. Stay in their lane, run the football, and they play a brand of football that can travel anywhere.
Tommy DeVito, and then this is scary. Tanner Morgan hit hard, in some pain, taken out on the cart, had to go to the hospital. Tough loss there because he is one of those grit guys. And Illinois, Brett Bielema, 6-1.
Yeah, they play defense. They can run the football, control the tempo of the game, and they're atop of the Big 10 West.
Undefeated Syracuse, number 18.
Dino Babers!
And in the Dome, hosting NC State. Devin Leary done for the season. Garrett Schrader to Oronde Gadsden II.
Nice job. Free play, throw it up, allow your guy to make a play.
Schrader, all kinds of time here. I mean, all kinds of time. Come on.
Yeah, survey the field. Woo. And then
that's 5
throws a pick, though.
Tanner Engel, he ordered 2 drinks from Starbucks. Meanwhile, Miami looking for their first Power 5 win of the season, trying to snap a 3-game losing streak, and Tyler Van Dyke, a confidence game against Virginia Tech.
This is the guy that we thought we were going to see early in this season. Very calm, very accurate in the pocket, making big-time throws. We haven't always seen that this season.
Van Dyke there again to Colby Young.
Accurate throwing, like Booger said right there. That's what you wanted to see out of him. And you know what? I mean, they played, got their first big win.
Yeah, first Power 5 win of the season for Mario Cristobal. They hold on 20-14. It's been a long season in Coral Gables. They get on the board there. Meanwhile, James Madison, number 25 in the country, looking to go 6-0, becoming the only team in their first FBS season to do so. Former Temple out, Todd Centeio going in with the keeper. He's been the difference for the Dukes.
No one knew that, but you spread them out, run the quarterback draw.
Centeio, we educate the audience. 17-14 right now. JMU up by 3 on ESPN Plus against Georgia Southern. LSU, Florida, we know what's going on this set right now.
Yes.
And that game's in the swamp. But what about Clemson, Florida State at Doak? That environment's going to be great.
Yeah, Jordan Travis, to me, this will be a big game. Clemson's offense has gotten going, but can Travis make some big plays against DJ Uiagalelei?
Yeah, he's going to have to, and that Clemson defense has played so much better the last couple weeks.
Oak's going to be rocking prime time on ABC.
Kev, congratulations. The Fields have won, Kev.
Yeah, going to the NLCS. More after this.
This halftime report is presented by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. This halftime report is presented by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Got a pretty good game. Monday Night Football, Broncos in L.A. against the Chargers. Boog will be there for Monday Night Countdown. What can we expect from Russell Wilson?
I have no idea, but I'm going to watch Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert, he's worth the price of admission, right? ESPN Monday Night Football Countdown coming your way 6 p.m. Eastern Time right now. Spencer Sanders in Oklahoma State up by 11, getting the ball after these messages to start the second half.
This is the Big 12 Conference on ESPN, and we welcome you back to ESPN College Football on ABC, presented by Arby's from steamy Fort Worth, Texas. The temperature's gone up to 91 degrees. At halftime of this battle of 2 unbeatens, it's Oklahoma State leading by 11. They had a 17-point lead. It was 14-7 in favor of Oklahoma State. TCU just scored a touchdown. Looked like they had some momentum, Todd, but they muffed the punt. That led to a field goal for the Cowboys and gave them a 10-point lead. And another special teams mistake on the interference. Gave them great field position, and Spencer Sanders took advantage of it.
Yeah, he really did. He came right back with a beautiful throw, and the only other difference, statistically pretty even in the first half. A couple special teams mistakes, the 1 turnover for TCU, and red zone touchdowns. Oklahoma State a little bit better than TCU in that first half, and I really think the defense of Oklahoma State caused confusion for Max Duggan in this offense. They're used to man-to-man, the big plays down the field. He had to hold the ball longer than he wanted to. See how they adjusted that here in the second half.
And you talked late in the half about it seemed like the Oklahoma State offense took its feet off the gas a little bit. Spencer Sanders had 149 yards of total offense in the first quarter.
Right.
He had just 30 in the second quarter.
Yeah. And part of that was TCU's defense played better. They got a little bit more aggressive. They had better downfield coverage. But I do think they kind of relaxed a little bit as well.
Luke Laminak's kickoff is a touchback, and here's Molly McGrath.
Well, guys, as Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy was leaving the locker room, officials were there waiting for him to discuss those slow substitutions in the first half. Gundy said, you know what, they warned me. It's just a part of the game. They want both sides to pick up their subs a little bit. but Gundy has been warned by the officials. But he said his biggest focus in this drive especially is for get their run game going. He said they lost balance on offense, so they need to establish the run to stay in this game. Sean, Todd?
They rushed for just 82 yards in the first half.
Just like that, they throw it first down.
And it's complete for about a 6-yard gain to Braden Johnson. He's been a frequent target, fifth-year senior from right down the road in Arlington, Texas, between here and Dallas.
The interesting thing about this defense, this 3-3-5, the way it lines up, when you look out there, you say, well, you should be able to run. There's not that many people in the box around the line of scrimmage, but they fly guys into that area, and they do a better job against the run than you would think.
The catch made, and Richardson has enough for a first down before he got driven back. When we asked Sonny Dykes why Joe Gillespie is your defensive coordinator, he said, well, I was familiar with him from Tulsa and thought he did a great job. He said, but I also hated to play against that 3-3-5 defense. He said, it looks like when you line up, there's holes everywhere, but all of a sudden people are flying from everywhere to make plays and fill those holes. Dominic Richardson ahead for about 5. Joe Gillespie was a long-time high school coach here in the state of Texas, particularly at Stephenville, Texas, where he won a state championship 10 years ago. Had a great time at Tulsa, loved Philip Montgomery, but the opportunity to coach in the Big 12 was huge. And to come back to Texas, his defense is being gashed on this long play. Richardson, I think everybody thought he was going out of bounds. He did not, apparently. And he goes all the way down to the 15-yard line.
Second time they've run this screen effectively, and again they bring the slot receiver John Paul Richardson inside to block the middle linebacker.
Boy, it looked like he was out of bounds, didn't he? Yeah. They snap it again, and Richardson gets very little. Well, that was one time where it did look like there were holes everywhere in that defense. Let's see if he steps out. Not there. Nope. Two officials in good position.
I like the way that they've executed that screen to Richardson. They bring that slot receiver in, get a block on the middle linebacker, get linemen out in front of him, and 2 times in the ball game they have executed it perfectly.
Most recently for 44 yards. Jaden Nixon, the ball carrier. Not much there. Here comes the big third down. They led, did Oklahoma State at one point, 24-7. Couple of field goals cut into that margin. Big play early in the third quarter.
Got to be alert to him running the ball too.
And he pulls it down. They were alert, and they dropped Spencer Sanders for a loss. It was Jamoy Hodge, the talented middle linebacker. It was their second leading tackler on the year. Mike Gundy sends Tanner Brown on the field goal kicker.
Yeah, definitely a design quarterback draw. You saw that back take off in front of him. Jaden Nixon, he's going for a block. And it did not fool the TCU defense. Excellent play by Hodge.
Well, here's Brown, who kicked the field goal 35 yards in the first half to make him 9 for 9 for the year. This one's from 34, and he's 10 for 10. Big third down stop for TCU. They were alert for the run threat posed by Spencer Sanders. Back to a 2-touchdown lead for number 8, Oklahoma State. The National Championship Trophy presented by Dr. Pepper is here at Amon G. Carter Stadium today. Here's a look at today's college football rankings. The AP Top 10 brought to us by AT&T 5G. Oklahoma State number 8 and leading by 2 touchdowns.
Impressive win today by Michigan. That's undefeated Penn State up in the big house. That game was close. Penn State had a slim lead, and then Michigan just exploded on them in the second half.
Now the 14 undefeated teams in FBS football will be one fewer when this game is over. Amari DiMercato
took the squib kick out near the 30-yard line.
Well, Quentin Johnston had a huge week last week. He's going to have to be big in the second half. They targeted him 7 times. He had 4 catches. Shows you what he can do after the catch. And then even against double coverage, made the biggest play of the first half offensively for TCU, going up in the air and making this catch. Again, TCU a little frustrated in that first half. Their passing game, not what they expected it to be or what it's been. But Johnston got to have a big half here for TCU.
Max Duggan lines up in the pistol. Kendre Miller trying to get outside. And he was able to turn the corner, shoved out at the 34-yard line by Colin Oliver. Oliver had a brilliant freshman year last year, was the Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year. Was unanimous in that regard. Was the National Defensive Freshman of the Year with his 11.5 sacks. Now a sophomore is Oliver. Short pass caught. Big hit delivered over the middle. It was Colin Oliver right on cue, who stopped Darius Davis right in his tracks. Here comes 3rd down and a long 3.
Well, this time Oliver's right here, but he's not going to rush the passer. He's going to drift into coverage, and he is waiting for that crossing route. Zone defense, the receiver has to gear that down. If it's zone, you can't just keep running through it. You have to stop in an area. Man to man, you run to separate. Zone, you got to stop in a hole.
DeMercado is the running back. 4-man rush. Duggan for Johnston. Not a lot of run after the catch, but just enough to get the first down at the 41. Stopped by Jason Taylor, the veteran 50-year safety out of Oklahoma City, making his 21st career start today.
And right away we see some of the adjustments by Garrett Riley, Sonny Dykes, crossing routes, anticipating more zone defense again in the second half. But those crossers have to find holes in between defenders and sit down for the quarterback.
Half the field in the shadows now. Look out! Duggan taken down.
Too long.
By Tyler Lacey.
Yep, just too long. I mean, this is a 3-man rush, and you've got 5 guys blocking, and the quarterback's got to get rid of the football. Dump it off to the back. Look to his right. There's a running back right there, an outlet receiver right there, throwing the ball. Again, Duggan trying to look for the throw down the field. Lacey kept working on the play and got the sack.
First for Oklahoma State. Lacey with 11.5 career sacks now. DeMercado, some running room and a first down in the Cowboys territory to the 47-yard line. Tripped up by Jason Taylor.
I think they need to keep running the football because Oklahoma State is trying to get zone defenders to cover the pass. I think we're
running a man on the field here. Sorry to interrupt, Todd, but he was the 11th man. There was some confusion on the Oklahoma State side. DeMercado. They're sticking with the run, and he refuses to go down. Very near another first down inside the 40.
This was a really weird looking play. I mean, Oklahoma State was late getting on. TCU didn't look like they were quite ready, except for DeMercado.
And they're going to stick with the run. And it's another first down to the 34-yard line for DeMercado, part of the deep running back group. He's from Inglewood. They say he lives within walking distance of SoFi Stadium, which is where the College Football National Championship game will be played in January.
If you run the football, and then that makes Derek Mason maybe change his strategy, bring more guys into the box, and that would give you some more one-on-one opportunities on the outside.
They are heeding your advice. Miller slices through a hole. Great balance. And finally wrestled down at the 13-yard line by Jason Taylor.
See, you have more blockers than they have defenders. They're not getting extra hat in the box to stop the run game, and this is really good decision by Garrett Riley to continue with the running game. I mean, you've got depth at running back, you got fresh guys. Garrett Riley just leaning on that run.
Why wouldn't you lean on Miller? He averages 7.2 yards per rush for his career. There's a fumble. And it's recovered by an offensive lineman, Brendan Coleman, in the right spot after Brock Martin knocked the ball up.
And I'm wondering if this is a read. Why not keep this if you're Max Duggan? I mean, Brock Martin's going to destroy this play, and you're looking right at it. If that's a read, you pull that out and keep it as the quarterback.
I don't think Duggan has been particularly sharp today.
No.
Even some of the easy throws, the guys have had to make difficult catches, where if he put it in the right place, there might be more after the catch. 73% for the year coming into today, just 13 for 22 today.
This looks like man now. Pressure with man.
And his pass is behind his intended receiver. And a nice catch made by Savion Williams. His first of the day and 12th of the year.
Well, this is exactly what you're talking about. Feet are a little bit happy in the pocket. Ball's a little bit behind the intended receiver. He's not throwing the ball on rhythm like we've seen him do through the first part of this season. And now you have to be smart here. You can't get greedy. I mean, obviously you can make a first down without scoring a touchdown, but you got to come away with points again. You're in field goal range.
Four-man rush, well blocked. The throw incomplete. Good coverage along the far sideline. Jason Taylor again. He had the coverage on Tay Barber.
Jason Taylor is the only returning starter from this secondary. They play 5 defensive backs. All the other ones graduated. Pretty good coverage. Had a little grab of the back, but that ball I don't think was catchable anyway.
Here's Griffin Kell, 2 for 2 in the first half. Made from 48 and 35. This is a 34-yard try. So it's back to an 11-point game with a long way to go. 5:51 remaining in the third quarter here at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth.
College football presented by Arby's on ABC is brought to you by Chick-fil-A. Order a grilled spicy deluxe sandwich today. Available for a limited time.
Aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, celebrating the challenge of road games everywhere. Are you ready for the road? Goodyear, more driven. Oklahoma State trying to win its 4th straight road game here at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, where a lot of the folks on the near side of the field are happy that the shadows are now upon us and they are in the shade. It's the folks on the Oklahoma State side still in the hot sunshine, but having a good time nonetheless. Lemonak with another bomb out of the back of the end zone. Here's Molly McGrath.
Well, Sean, unfortunately, I've been on Oklahoma State's sideline most of this game, and players are complaining to each other that they've been staring directly into the sun the entire game. Their benches are hot to the touch, and when I register this thermometer, it reads at 96 degrees, and then over on TCU's side, it's a cool 73 degrees. So talk about a home field advantage, but it looks like the sun is starting to change a little bit, and the shade will be coming over to Oklahoma State sideline soon.
Yeah, it should be just a matter of minutes now as the shadows creep in that direction. Joe Michalski is the center now. Earlier in the game they were playing with Eli Russ, who's ordinarily a guard. They're without their starting center Preston Wilson. High snap, Sanders then bobbled it and still made it into about an 8-yard gain as he took off running.
Yeah, Michalski is the guy who had to come in last week for Preston Wilson. I'm guessing it's his left ankle. There's something wrong with, because he's got a gigantic wrap on that left ankle, number 66. But Spencer Sanders erases mistakes.
Richardson stopped at the line of scrimmage, so here comes a big 3rd down. Good penetration by Mark Perry. There's the left ankle brace on the center, Joe Michalski. He's a veteran, has played in 27 career games. Richardson looks like he got it. He did. Lowered his head. and picked up the first down. Junior from Oklahoma City.
I think that's the kind of run when we talked to Mike Gundy and Casey Dunn, they said this is what he does. Okay, he's a downhill runner. He's not going to run by you. He's not going to make you miss. He's going to run right through your face, and he's going to get the tough yards.
Caleb Fox, backup defensive end, is the injured player for TCU. Tonight at 10:30 on ESPN Deportes and ESPN Plus, the lightweight champion Devin Haney versus George Kambosos 2, live from Melbourne, Australia. There'll probably be a lot of punters in the audience. It's for the undisputed 135-pound championship. Haney won in that matchup back in June. That's why it's 2 tonight. And that music is beautiful. It's ESPN Hockey Night. It's a doubleheader on Tuesday. The Flyers and the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then the LA Kings and the Nashville Predators starting at 7.
I don't know much about the hockey, but Devin Haney, a top 10 pound-for-pound boxer. We discuss information like that in the Meat Club.
He took 4 belts off Kambosos in that win back in June. Out of the pistol, Oklahoma State leading by 11. Sanders just did get it off, and a beautiful throw and catch for a first down to the TCU territory. It's Brennan Presley with the grab.
This, I think, is Spencer Sanders' best route. They clear out with the outside receiver, and they run the deep bench towards the outside, and then they have underneath coverage to hold that. And Spencer Sanders throws that extremely well. Big play to Presley.
Good for 17 yards. Out of the pistol again with Richardson, the running back.
Same fate.
And Richardson wide open. He's had the best receiving day of his career. That 44-yard play earlier in the quarter was his longest reception of his career, and he has had more receiving yards today than he's had in any other game. Johnny Hodges, starting linebacker, is the injured player, transfer from Navy.
Sean, that play is the example of the difference so far between Spencer Sanders and Max Duggan. That was play action. They were looking to throw the football down the field. Watch, deep play action. It's not there. He just dumps it off to the back. There's Hodges chasing the play at the end. You can just see at the end of the play.
His right ankle twisted a little bit.
I think it was
He's walking off.
It's an interesting story. I mean, he was at Navy, as you mentioned. Last year against SMU, when Sonny Dykes was the coach, he had a career-high 14 tackles against SMU, so he made an impression on Sonny Dykes. And then versus Tulsa, where Joe Gillespie was, he had 7 tackles, 2 for a loss, a sack, and a forced fumble. That's a pretty good audition for the 2 new coaches here at TCU.
2 years at Navy. 4th on their team in tackles last year, despite the fact he played only 9 games. Richardson to the 29-yard line. Oklahoma State trying to score a touchdown and take control of this game late in the 3rd quarter.
Injury timeout.
Mentioned they did well in the transfer portal. 14 transfers, 3 of them starters on defense, and then Dominic Williams, a true freshman who was 17 years old when he played in the season opener against Colorado.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those transfers right there. Josh Newton came over from University of Louisiana. He's had an active day. I mean, he's been involved in a lot of pass coverage. This is coming up to defend the run.
The clock operator, please reset the game.
Got hit by his own
clock to 3
man.
minutes, 38 seconds.
So they're checking on Newton. Played for the Warhawks at ULM, Louisiana Monroe. Coming up next on ABC, number 4, Clemson against Florida State. First meeting in Tallahassee since 2018. COVID wiped out the game in 2020. You remember that? That was a big controversy. Dabo, Sweeney had a lot of unpleasant things to say about Florida State, its administration. Be interesting to see how he is received there tonight. I remember his quote to us. We had Clemson the next week. He said, yeah, we have one guy who wasn't feeling great, but he tested negative, and now they're all of a sudden I'm Wuhan Dabo.
Right. That's right.
Out of the pistol again. Nixon. And pressure coming from the other side. And he spins down at the 17-yard line. And right now, they're doing just about anything they want.
Well, and Mike Gundy told Molly, we got to get our run game going here in the second half. We got a little out of balance, and they've got it going. They're 113 yards now for the game. And that run game is what wears down the defense. Much more than pass blocking.
Nixon. Sturdy tackle by Hodges is right back in. With that right arm dangling by his side again. And he's down on a knee again. Tried to make a go of it.
Well, you know he's a tough kid. I mean, when you talk to coaches, when they get a kid transfer from one of the academies, you know exactly what you're getting. I mean, those are guys that are playing for the love of the sport, and they're never going to quit, and they're going to fight through everything because that's how they've been trained. But obviously Hodges not feeling like he can contribute the way he wants to right now.
Josh Newton is back in the game after they tended to him a moment ago. Impressive drive by Oklahoma State. Trying to get to 6-0 for the second straight season and for the 6th time under Mike Gundy. And this is 18th year. Presley chopped down immediately. Bud Clark came over like a missile. Apparently didn't get him down on the ground the first time, but did the second.
And that was a good read by Clark. This was just an RPO. I mean, this is a decision by Spencer Sanders. The line and the back are going run, and he just makes a decision thinking the guy can make one guy miss. But it was a sure tackle by Bud Clark.
Well, if they could force a field goal, that would be big. It keeps it a 2-touchdown game. Touchdown for Oklahoma State would make it a 3-score game late in the third quarter. On 3rd and 7. No pressure on Sanders. Presley incomplete. Good defensive play by Bud Clark. Another one from the sophomore from Alexandria, Louisiana.
Yeah, back-to-back outstanding plays. This is perfect coverage. Came over the top of the receiver without interfering. Right in the middle of the screen, you're going to see it. Presley, the slot, coming inside, and Bud Clark's going to go over the top of him and knock the ball away.
We haven't had a touchdown in this game since 10:04 remained in the second quarter. John Paul Richardson caught that 22-yard pass from Sanders. It's become a field goal fest, and this is a 32-yarder up and good from Tanner Brown. So it's 30-16. Oklahoma State ranked number 8. This is our first time this year seeing them in person. Yeah, I think we're both impressed. You know, some questions about the defense before this game started. Mike Gundy. You know, we asked him the other day in our call. I asked him, do you think you're underappreciated, that you don't get enough credit for what you've done here at Oklahoma State? He said, I don't really think about that. Yeah. But I think he is. When you look at 16 straight winning seasons, what he's done is remarkable.
Yeah, I think, you know, it simply is a reason. The reason is simply that Oklahoma State maybe doesn't have as big of a brand in college football as some other places, but his record is undeniable. And the continuity of his staff, he told us they've got about 95 people in the overall staff that have been with him for most of the time there. So the consistency, the continuity. Also, he's hired some outstanding offensive coordinators that have gone on to be great coaches in other places throughout his career as well.
That's one of his great strengths. Darius Davis yanked down around the 20-yard line by Kendall Daniels.
Well, Derek Mason took over for Jim Knowles. This defense last year led the country with 57 sacks. They don't have the same kind of numbers, but they've done a good job of getting pressure on Max Duggan by only rushing 4, in some cases 3. Here's a 3-man rush, and the sack is going to occur by Lacey. Zone defense behind it. The quarterback's holding on to the ball too long, and Oklahoma State has confused Max Duggan for most of this game.
Mercado up the middle. TCU's had field goals on its last 3 possessions. They cannot continue to do that, obviously. We asked Derek Mason, how'd you wind up with Mike Gundy? Last year, Derek Mason was at Auburn, of course, formerly the head coach at Vanderbilt. And he said it went back to the 2012 Fiesta Bowl.
Yep.
When Derek Mason was at Stanford, they played Oklahoma State in a great Fiesta Bowl. Andrew Luck was the quarterback at Stanford. Here's another nice run by DeMercado. He's had such appreciation for everything about the Oklahoma State program, particularly the toughness. He said, until we played against them, I didn't realize what a toughness there was within the program. He said, always admired Mike Gundy, and when the chance arose to come be his defensive coordinator, he jumped at it.
Well, and he said he watched him last year in the bowl game against Notre Dame, and he said it's the same physicality, it's the same identity that I saw back in 2012, and he was impressed by that as well.
Duggan fires. Juggling catch made by Savion Williams. And to your point about identifying offensive coaches, since he's been at Oklahoma State, he had Larry Fedora, who went on to be the head coach at Southern Miss, Dana Holgerson, Todd Monken, Mike Yersin, Sean Gleason. Some of these guys were not well known at all when he found them. Now Casey Dunn doing a great job. ESPN's presentation of college football on ABC will return after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Here's our quarterback comparison. Spencer Sanders came flying out of the gates at 149 yards of total offense in the first quarter. That has dropped off. And Todd, I don't think Max Duggan's been his sharpest either.
No, he hasn't, and a lot of that is the changing of coverages and looks by the Oklahoma State defense. He's never gotten quite comfortable.
Running for a first down, Kendre Miller. Another big game for him in a string of them. Rushed for 142 at SMU, 136 against Oklahoma, 88 last week in the win at Kansas, and he's up to 86 today.
This running game, again, Oklahoma State kind of inviting TCU to run. They don't want to get beat over the top of the defense because that's what TCU has done to so many people. The big explosive plays. They had 4 touchdowns against Oklahoma of over 62 yards.
Throwing it up for grabs, single coverage and incomplete in the direction of Quentin Johnston. And Jabbar Muhammad had the coverage.
Good coverage downfield again by Muhammad. Again, with this body, though, it didn't go for the double move, but throw it in a place where he can maybe even just stop and go up. You know, rather than run to the ball, throw it a little bit shorter and let him try to use that big body and fend off the defender.
Another 100-yard receiving game after his 14 for 206 and the game-winning touchdown at Kansas last week. Nowhere to go for Miller. Kendall Daniels up near the line of scrimmage from the secondary.
Yeah, really nice play. This time anticipating run, and Daniels was coming on a run blitz, a run pressure. Daniels had to sit out the first half of this game, had a targeting foul in the game a week ago against Texas Tech. So his first action here in the second half made a big play on that second down.
3rd down and 10. Just 3 for 10 on 3rd down. Sonny Dykes told Molly at the half we have to stay out of 3rd down and long.
And this has got to be 2-down territory, I'm thinking, if you get part of it.
There's a blitz. They got right in the face of Duggan, and Barber couldn't get back to the ball. Colin Oliver delivered the hit.
Well, Oliver got the hit, but it was also Kendall Daniels again, who's coming right here. Here's Oliver. They brought 2 to that side. The line is turning to the other way, so the back is left, and he can only take one of them. The line's turning to the left. The back is responsible for the right side, and he can only pick up one defender. Timely blitz that time by Derek Mason, and they have not blitzed a lot, but that one was at the right time.
I think Oklahoma State would be alert to a fake here. And this part of the field. Sandy punts it away, gets a great bounce around the 5-yard line. And they down it at the 8. Here's the All-State playoff predictor. And this was obviously entering today the teams with the best chances of making it to the 4-team college football playoff. Would you concur, Mr. Blackledge? I'm sure you can explain to us how they compute this.
I don't
Academic All-American as you were at Penn State.
But I would agree. I mean, those first 3 teams, we've kind of said all along, they have looked like the best 3 teams. I think Clemson is definitely trending that way. This is a big game for them tonight in Tallahassee. But I think their defense is finally getting healthy, and I think they are going to just get better and better.
Of course, Alabama trailing at Tennessee. Changed their odds significantly. Yeah. Dominic Richardson powers ahead. Oklahoma State oh so close. Last year, if they could win this one, it's a big hurdle cross. They'd get to 6-0. And both coaches we spoke to yesterday talked about how wide open this conference is right now. Well, Kansas picked to finish 10th in the preseason, and look what they've done. Do you see a clear-cut favorite in the Big 12 as Richardson is stopped again?
No, I don't, because I think with the return of Quinn Ewers to Texas, who had a tough win today against Iowa State, I think Texas is talented enough to beat anybody, and that's who Oklahoma State will play next week. Kansas State, sitting there at 5-1, they're off this week. They play here against TCU, so yeah, it's wide open.
The winner of this game will be tied with K-State for the conference lead. Oklahoma State is at Kansas State in 2 weeks. TCU has the Wildcats next week. There's a 3rd down stop. Well, it's the TCU defense that is doing its job. They've held Oklahoma State to a couple of field goals here in the second half, but the offense needs to come to life. Yeah. If you're Sonny Dykes, would you consider it all as we look at the 3rd down stop? Well, would you consider a quarterback change?
I don't think so yet. No, I don't. I think you give Max Duggan a little bit more time. He's been brilliant. He's had a rough day today, or just kind of an uncomfortable day. But I think you still go with him right now.
Darius Davis got away from Jaden Nixon. Picks up some blocks. And an electric return by one of the best return men in the country to the 47-yard line. Good field position for Max Duggan. The Horned Frogs need to take advantage of it. Down by 2 touchdowns. We're back in Fort Worth, Texas, Amon G. Carter Stadium on the campus of TCU. The homestanding Horned Frogs, 5-0 for the first time since 2017, which was really the last time they were nationally relevant in a game under 500 in the last 4 seasons. They're down by 2 touchdowns. Max Duggan had big performances against Oklahoma and Kansas, but playing a feisty Oklahoma State defense today hasn't done much.
Well, they blitzed them the last series, but for the most part, as you take a look at backup Chandler Morris, who was the starter in week 1, they've played zone, and they have not given up the big plays.
They bring a blitz from Daniels. It was picked up. Now a floating throw again. Caught by Johnston. And it's a first down all the way to the 22-yard line.
It was a blitz, but it was zone behind it. Here comes the blitz. It's going to get picked up by Kendry Miller, but it's not an overload blitz. It's still only 4 guys rushing, so it's zone behind it. Max Duggan did a nice job of stepping up, knowing he had time, and finding the crossing route to Quentin Johnston.
25 yards.
That's only the 3rd pass play of 20 yards or more that they've had in the ball game, and they've been averaging a bunch more than that.
Touchdown here, and it's a game as we approach 10 minutes to go. Zings it out to Johnston again. Excuse me, Savion Williams. And he stopped along the near sideline near the 15-yard line.
It's a good decision by Max. That time he was looking for the end zone. He was looking for the touchdown. It wasn't there, and he found an outlet. That time the outlet was Savion Williams. He got him the football.
Two running backs now, Mari DiMercato and Trent Battle. They sent Davis in motion. It's Duggan, fakes the option pitch, and he has the first down.
That was triple option. They brought the other guy in motion. That was a wishbone. There were three backs in the backfield. This is old school Southwest Conference football. Watch. This is wishbone, fake, quarterback, got a pitch man, fake the pitch, and they get the first down.
Who knew the wishbone made you so happy?
Just, you don't see it very often. Unless you're watching Kansas this year. Kansas is a triple option team. Very fun offense.
They scored 42 again today to the Jayhawks, but lost 52-42 to Oklahoma. Continues to give up 40-plus points every week, but at least today in a win. Duggan juggled the snap, throws a slant, and it is incomplete. Quentin Johnston couldn't take it in. Jason Taylor had the coverage.
Yeah, that's a great play by Taylor because this is a touchdown. I mean, it's a good throw. He has it, but he can't finish it. And there it's ripped out. Beautiful play by Jason Taylor. Progressive pylon cam shows it to you. Ball is thrown in the right spot, and Jason Taylor just rips it out.
Known in Stillwater for a career filled with making big plays. That was another one. Here comes the leisurely substitution. And he's telling him to snap it. And they got too many down on the field.
They got the penalty that time.
There is a flag down underneath the goalpost. And saw Sonny Dykes.
And see, this is what Max Duggan didn't do in the first half. He turned around to complain, and had he just snapped the football as soon as they clear the center, they would have got the penalty. They didn't do it in the first half. That time they got it. You know, it's one thing to leisurely come on the field, but you better bust it getting off the field. And that time, Max Duggan's going to catch him.
Yep, once the center judge moves away, as Matt Austin says.
Right now.
And they warned Oklahoma State.
Defense. At the distance to the goal line. Replay second down.
Brendan Evers did not get off. You saw Sonny Dykes screaming at Duggan to snap it.
Yep.
So it's second and goal from the 3.
I think this is quarterback run here. We got it loaded right side.
Kendre Miller lowers his head and has a touchdown for TCU.
What a great job by the left guard and the left tackle. Take one more look from the progressive pylon cam to make sure Miller got in the end zone. Clearly the ball over. Steve Avila, the left guard, Brandon Coleman, the left tackle, just really drove their men into the end zone. Alon Ali, the center, with a big block.
At least one rushing touchdown in every game this season for Miller. 7 total in 6 games. Having the 47-yard drive after another nice punt return by Darius Davis. It is a 7-point game after the extra point by Griffin Kell with 9:22 to go. The crowd back into it. Kendre Miller, Jr. from Mount Enterprise, Texas. The lead rusher for the TCU Horned Frogs.
College football on ABC is presented by Arby's. Arby's, we have the meats.
Spencer Sanders' mom was into it early on. Her son came out of the gates flying, ran for a couple of touchdowns, the first 2 touchdowns of the game. He's thrown a touchdown pass, but lately, little reason to celebrate the offense, and now some game pressure on the Cowboys as their lead is down to a single score. It's 30-23 as Luke Laminack kicks off with 9:22 to go. And the crowd fully engaged. Here's Kevin Nagandi.
Sean, you mentioned single score. We've got a game down to a single point. Knoxville, Tennessee up 34-28, and Bryce Young keeping this 3rd and goal alive.
Yeah, it's just bad defense. You got to go up the upfield shoulder and game tackle, but Bryce Young poised, making a play down the field.
Oh, is this pass interference?
Eyes down the field. I don't know. It looked like it could have gone the other way right there.
Bama gets a 1st and goal off the flag. Jahmyr Gibbs, first Bama lead of the game, 35-34, Sean.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Here in the second half, 2 field goals and a punt for Oklahoma State. They also punted on the last 2 possessions of the first half. Good cutback, Dominic Richardson. And a gain of 6 on first down for the Cowboys.
Well, the thing for Oklahoma State, 2 things positive. You've got a veteran quarterback in Spencer Sanders, and they've been in close ball games the last 2 weeks, at Baylor and at home against Texas Tech.
And interesting, they've gone back to trying to play a little more tempo now. Sanders forced to throw it away. Jamoy Hodge brought the pressure. And an enormous 3rd down and 4 with 9 minutes to go. Almost looked like on that last play they tried to speed it up just to get a little something going with the offense, a little tempo, a little rhythm.
I don't think you go quarterback draw here because I think TCU has been clued into it. But if you throw and it opens up at all for a lane, watch Spencer Sanders take it and run it.
They bring pressure up the middle. The pass caught in traffic. Beautiful throw by Sanders. Didn't look to be much room, but he got it to Braden Johnson for a first down to the 40-yard line, a 9-yard play.
The defender is on the inside. The ball's thrown to the outside. The only place it could be thrown for a completion, and that's why they got the conversion on 3rd down. Perfect placement of the football.
Now they send Sanders on the run. Turns the corner, ran away from Hodges, who's back in the game after he's come out a couple of times with that apparent arm injury. 10-yard pickup and a first down for Oklahoma State. And obviously at this juncture, a field goal would be huge.
Yeah.
Spencer Sanders, back in his home state. He was Mr. Football in Texas in 2017. Richardson tripped up after a gain of 1.
You know, the thing that he's done so much better this year in his final year, I mean, he came in averaging over 300 yards a game passing, but his touchdown to interception ratio, his first 3 years, he threw a lot of interceptions, 31 interceptions in his first 3 years, 12 of them last year. So far this year, only 2.
To go with 13 touchdown passes. Yep. Excellent ratio. They go back to the pistol. A lot of faking by Sanders. Deep ball. And it is intercepted.
There is a flag down though, Sean. I'm not sure it was thrown right at the snap. I don't know if somebody was lined up offside or if it was a formation penalty. Illegal formation, the interception would stand.
Bud Clark picked it off.
Illegal formation. More than 4 players in the backfield on the offense. The penalty is declined. The result of the play is an interception. First down.
First career interception for Bud Clark, a sophomore from Alexandria, Louisiana. You just talked about avoiding interceptions, and here it is.
Yeah, they tried to go deep. He doesn't get enough on the ball. The receiver beat the defender, but because the ball was underthrown, the receiver had to stop, and Bud Clark made the play. If that ball is thrown out in front, it's another touchdown for Spencer Sanders. Back in Fort Worth, where Spencer Sanders just threw his 3rd interception of the season. We mentioned at the top, he missed all week, did not practice with a right shoulder injury. You wonder if the shoulder affected him not getting enough on this throw because his receiver has separation. If he throws that out far enough, it's a touchdown for Braden Johnson. Instead, the receiver had to stop, slow down, and it was picked off. And you just got to wonder if a healthy Spencer Sanders, a fully healthy Spencer Sanders, can make that throw a little bit better.
So now TCU ball from its own 8-yard line. needing a touchdown to tie. In trouble off the handoff. Henry Miller, he's back to the line of scrimmage, and that's it.
This is where Max Duggan needs to make a good play here. Second down and long. He's got to make a positive play here on second down to give him a reasonable chance on third down. You can't just throw an errant ball incomplete and come up 3rd and 9 here deep in your own territory.
Duggan, very highly recruited out of high school. Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, among others. His pass batted down. Good hands by Trace Ford. Max told us when he came to this campus, he immediately fell in love with TCU. He's trying to deliver one of the big wins in recent Horned Frog history.
You know, it's hard to fault the quarterback for that. The left tackle, he's got to put his helmet a little bit south of the belt line on that time. And then those arms aren't going to go up by the defensive lineman. You can't let him just stand there, disengage, and jump up and deflect the pass.
3rd down. 6:37 to go. Play clock down to 3. 4-man rush. They still push the pocket. Duggan's throw too high. Looked like Quentin Johnston jumped a fraction too early. Still got a hand on it with Jabbar Muhammad in coverage, and he's given Johnston all he can handle today.
Well, pretty good pressure again, 4-man rush, and I don't think Duggan set his feet. I think he was kind of backing up as he threw it. There was pressure, but the ball sailed on him because he wasn't able to really set his feet and step into it.
Jordy Sandy out of the end zone. Good kick. Fair catch made. Don't take that for granted today. Brennan Presley able to take it in. So Oklahoma State will start at the 43. With a touchdown lead, and a field goal would be enormous.
Well, we talked so much about offenses, right, coming into this game, and the quarterbacks, and really both defenses have kind of been the story. They both have played very well in slowing these two offenses down.
Both teams averaging more than 46 points per game coming in, being held to well below that. 3-man rush. Now here come more rushers, and Sanders content to flip it out of bounds.
Yeah, that 3-man rush, once it forces Sanders to flush out of the pocket, then some of those mid-range defenders run at him. They don't rush initially, but once he leaves the pocket, then they go after him and force the throwaway on that play.
Again, they start with a 3-man rush, and Sanders fires it into the crowd. Looked like it might have been caught by an offensive lineman.
Which would not be legal, would it?
Terrell Cooper put the pressure on. And apparently they're calling it an incomplete pass. It'll be 3rd down and 10. It hit the ground. Good pressure by Cooper, 6th-year senior. Third down and 10.
Man look right now by TCU.
Sanders tried to take off running, broke through one tackle, but could not escape. He's down for a loss of a yard. Dylan Horton and D. Winters.
Yeah, Dylan Horton made a great play, because if he doesn't slow him down, Sanders is probably going to get the first down. Watch Dylan Horton, number 98. It's just a 3-man rush. But Dylan Horton right now is going to get a little bit of a hold of him, slow him down enough, and D. Winters finishes him off.
That's officially a sack for a 1-yard loss. 2 sacks for TCU. So Hutton punts. This is a beauty. Davis is going to catch it at the 5.
No.
Boy, he's an adventure, and that one was not a good adventure for the Horned Frogs.
Well, the TCU defense came up again. Good pressure. They get the sack. They force the punt, but a bad decision on the other end. Sean, you've called Darius Davis an adventure, but I mean, this is just not a good decision. You put your heels on the 10-yard line. If you can catch it there, great. If not, you let it bounce, see if it goes in the end zone. Beautiful play by Ollie Gordon down there on coverage, the freshman running back, but Darius Davis, probably not the wisest decision there. Now you're 94 yards away from a game-tying touchdown.
They've been behind just about all day. They have not led in this game. They had trailed for only 16 and a half minutes all season. Quarterback draw, Duggan. Max Duggan out to the 20, so they get out from the shadow of their own end zone for the 14-yard run. You'll remember 1 week ago they had an enormous 99-yard drive at Kansas after the defense forced a fumble when the Jayhawks were going in. Jayhawks fumbled on the 1.
99 yards, and most of that on 2 catches back-to-back by Quentin Johnston.
82 of those 99 yards. DeMercado, the ball carrier. Mason Cobb made the tackle. Gain of 3. We're down to 4:42. The clock running. Each team with all 3 timeouts.
Yeah, you don't have to abandon the run. You don't have to change your game plan. Plenty of time to try to get in position to tie this football game.
Duggan 17 for 32 for 186. He's rushed for 45.
Pressure coming.
And he throws a
spin move.
Johnston, that spin move, sheds another. He can fly. And they knocked him out of bounds. My goodness, is he dynamic.
Well, this is great by Max Duggan, knowing pressure's coming, so one-on-one. And here's the spin move. Head fake inside, spin outside, and then strength to break the tackle of Mason Cobb. I'll tell you, he is fun to watch.
30 yards, 23 after the catch. Another low throw.
Yep, he knows it. And Max Duggan knows that. You know, he knew that he rushed it. He was mad at himself at the end of this play. Trying to get a quick snap, trying to get the ball out to a wide out quickly.
He's been criticized here by the Horned Frog fans over the years. You know, he came in, he had to play as a true freshman because of injuries to others and a transfer. Played with a broken finger his freshman year, had heart surgery, had an ablation, required 9 hours of surgery. Last year he played with a broken foot. So he's never really been fully healthy. And he has battled through it all. They have a wide open Kendre Miller.
First time he's done it all day, Sean. It's been there with this zone defense and Oklahoma State trying to keep everything in front. For the first time, he dumped it off to the back, and Kendre Miller got him a first down.
Even the dump offs, just
they got him off sides again.
Yep, they have. And there are flags down.
Now that time Oklahoma State was trying to substitute, and there was no official over the ball, and they were late substituting, and he was on the side of TCU.
Offside, number 94, defense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Trace Ford was trying to get into the ball game. That's not him. Trace Ford was the other guy, and he was on the TCU side of the football when the ball was snapped. So alertly, Max Duggan, for the second time here in the second half, gets the offside penalty.
Clock running under 3.5 minutes to go. Plenty of time for TCU with all 3 of its timeouts. They've very quickly gone from their own 6 to the 25 of Oklahoma State. In 5 plays, Duggan fires. Caught!
Wow.
High throw and a nice catch at the 11-yard line. Jared Wiley, the tight end, his first catch of the day and 6th of the year.
Well, when you're 6'7", you can throw it up there for him. He was a former quarterback in high school, shows some athleticism there, and that ball could only be caught by Jared Wiley.
Transfer from Texas, where he played the last 3 years. 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line. After a 13-yard play. DeMercado bounced down after a pickup of 2. Trace Ford, another tackle for Oklahoma State.
So, Sean, here's like a delicate balance right now for Sonny Dykes and Garrett Riley. You don't want to give, you obviously got to score, right? But you don't want to give Oklahoma State much time. So you want to massage the clock, but at the same time not lose your energy offensively because you still need to score. And you got to score a touchdown. Wildcat look.
And DeMercado gave it to Duggan. They have a receiver open. Another floating throw. It got to Wiley, and he got to the end zone. But now the field judge is looking at the line judge to see where they're going to spot the ball. And I think the field judge says he's down at the 1-yard line.
I think it's a touchdown.
The ruling in the field is that the player was down short of the goal line at the 1-yard line. First down.
Unless he stepped out, I think it's a touchdown. But let's take a look. Beautifully executed trick play. Does he step out? No. And does he touch before the end zone? No. That's a touchdown. What a time for the trick play as we see the end of it on the Progressive Pylon cam. They were in a Wildcat quarterback formation. DeMercado took the handoff.
The ruling in the field is that the runner was short of the goal line. The previous play is under further review.
What a time for that call. DeMercado took the direct snap and handed it off to Duggan, who then threw it. And by our count, and we're looking at the replays, it looks like a touchdown all the way. Trick play. What a great job by DeMercado blocking the end and allowing Duggan to get outside and make the throw. And Jared Wiley, 2 plays on this drive, huge for this TCU offense. That's a touchdown, right?
It is, I believe, unless Matt Austin saw something we didn't see. Matt?
No, this should be a touchdown. If this play happened at the 50-yard line and the whistle blew, it would be dead right there and there's nothing you can do. But since the next step took the runner into the end zone, this should be overturned to a touchdown.
Sean, we got to look at this again. The play that DeMercado, first of all, he's taking the snap. He's going to hand off. Now watch the block. The block he gets is just enough to allow Duggan to get outside. On the other side, Kendall Daniels was rushing and didn't know where the ball was. But
again, to me, the floaty throw, which has been sort of all day long, makes this a close play, right? I mean, if that's just got a little less air under it, he might walk into the end zone. I know you got to make sure you put it where Wiley can catch it. It's his 3rd touchdown in the last 5 games. He had 3 touchdown catches in 3 years at Texas.
Well, I think part of the reason for the floaty throw on that one was there was still pressure on the other side, and he was kind of giving ground to the pressure. I'll tell you what, he hasn't had his best game, but he showed some grit on this drive.
Without question.
They started on the 6-yard line, right? Last week, 99-yard drive. This week, 94-yard drive. And he showed some toughness and grit.
Well, I think you and I liked him before we even met him yesterday. Just when he started telling a story, you know, he was the starter for 3 years. He loses the job of the new coach. Did you think of transferring? No, never, not for a minute.
Yep.
After further review, the runner stayed in bounds and made it into the end zone for a touchdown.
And, you know, that doesn't sound like much, but we've talked to a lot of players and seen a lot of players around college football who, as soon as they lose their job, they're in the portal.
That's right. And Sonny Dykes told us, we made the decision 10 days before the start of the season to give him time if he wanted to go somewhere else. And Max Duggan said, no, I want to stay here. I love it here. I love my teammates. Remember, the first play of this 94-yard drive was Max Duggan on a quarterback draw for about 12 tough yards. That's what got the
play by DeMercado that you highlighted as well.
Take a look at this drive. How impressive. It hasn't been the best offensive day for TCU or Max Duggan. This is how it started. Quarterback draw from his own 6-yard line. And then the dump off. For the first time, he went to the outlet receiver, got Kendre Miller, picked up a huge first down. Then the throw on the crossing route to Jared Wiley. Max Duggan was 4 for 5 for 70 yards on this drive. This was the payoff one, the touchdown to Wiley. What an impressive offensive drive by TCU right there.
I guess it's a sign of a good team, right? And a good quarterback when clearly it was a struggle for a lot of the day, but when they absolutely had to have it, they got it from their offense and especially from their quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely they did. They're right back where they want to be, 30-30 now. The situation just a shade under 2 minutes, and now it's Spencer Sanders' turn, right? We talked about both these quarterbacks playing the best of their careers in this season, and now it's up to Spencer. A lot of time, minute 57, and all 3 timeouts for Oklahoma State.
Can the offense find the spark? They have 24 points, less than 5 minutes into the second quarter.
Tanner Brown has been very solid kicking the football so far today.
Indeed he has. Laminack another touchback. Here's Kevin Nagandi.
John, let's take a look at that afternoon window right now. Arkansas and Provo up big against BYU on ESPN. Just a 4-point game between Maryland and Indiana, fourth quarter in ESPN 2. Tulane up by 2 touchdowns. James Madison, number 25 in the land, trailing by 10 to Georgia Southern. Our nightcap in prime time, DJ Uyunglele and number 4 Clemson at Doak. Florida State's going to be rocking tonight. Cannot wait for that. After our game in Fort Worth. Back to you, Sean.
And this one is rocking for sure. A minute 57 to go. Sanders won for his last 6. Hands it off to Richardson. And he did well to get 2, perhaps 3. They made contact with him at the line. He powered ahead. And we'll see if either team is eager to use the timeout. Oklahoma State does line up quickly. They won't necessarily snap it quickly. Sanders under pressure. His pass batted down. 2 men with penetration. Hodges playing with that sore arm, and Dylan Horton knocked it down.
Well, both teams have been very choosy when they bring pressure. This time TCU does. 2nd and long, an unblocked linebacker in Hodges, and Spencer Sanders just has to throw it away, and lucky that wasn't tipped and picked. I doubt they'll come after him on this 3rd down. I think they'll drop 8 and rush 3 here.
Sanders will need all of his experience here on this big play with the crowd roaring. Has some running room. He's going to try it. He made 1 man miss. 2 men miss, but not the 3rd.
What an effort.
And TCU is going to call a timeout after the tackle by Terrell Cooper. TCU with a minute. Well, the clock on our screen is running, and the game clock had some seconds come off that they should put back there. TCU had called the timeout.
Well, excellent inside move and pressure by the 3-man front. Forced Sanders to leave the pocket. And he tried to break tackles, but too many black shirts there, or graphite, or anthracite, or whatever color these uniforms are.
Whatever anthracite is. Yeah, they're ugly uniforms. What did you say?
You said that. I didn't say
that.
Well,
I'm sticking by it too. I like their normal uniforms, their normal color. Why do they have the red?
The red, supposedly, as legend has it, the horned frog, when it's super angry, blood comes out of their eyes, or they can spit blood out of their eyes.
Well, they're not angry now. No red in that horned frog on the frog horn. So Hutton, a terrific punter. Last one was 53 yards inside the 10 and beautifully covered. This is another bomb. And the Davis excitement is put on pause for a moment.
Hold your breath, though, every time the ball comes to him.
You wondered, was he going to try it? He made the fair catch in traffic. He's giveth and taketh away in the punt game today, Darius Davis. That was a 47-yard punt.
Okay, so now if you're TCU and Max Duggan, you've got 59 seconds and 2 timeouts. And the worst case scenario, you're playing overtime at home. Okay, so you have the advantage in that regard. Field goal is all it takes to win. So this first down is the most critical. How quickly can you pick up this first down will determine how the rest of the drive goes.
Career long for Griffin Kell is 52 yards. They start with a designed run, as they did in the last possession, and not much there for Duggan to the 25-yard line. He's injured as he gets back up. There's Kell, who's already had a good day, 3 for 3 and 5 for 5 for the season. They're a long way from field goal range, and they're not operating in any big hurry right now. They're hoping for a big play on a conservative play, and they don't get it again from Amari DiMercato. Yeah, that was a tricky play they had him run on the Wildcat. He's a smart guy. Has a master's degree, got it with a 3.74 GPA. Duggan looks like he's frustrated that his arm isn't feeling like it should. What a competitor.
Well, that time they tried the quarterback draw on first down, and it was well read by Ossie and Tyler Lacey. Landed pretty funny on that arm.
So 1 timeout left for TCU. Chandler Morris, who was the starting quarterback at the beginning of the year, won the battle in the offseason. Not coming into the game. He has warmed up a couple of times. He got injured in the opener against Colorado, which opened the door for Duggan, and he took advantage of the opportunity. Trying to lead them to a come-from-behind win. They were down 17 at one point. Duggan throws it deep. He has a man open, and it's batted away. A huge play by Taylor. Darius Davis found a spot, and they couldn't get it to him before Taylor closed.
It's a beautiful play by Taylor. Because the ball hung in the air as long as it did, it allowed him to come from the middle of the field and knock that away, because he was definitely open and beyond Jabbar Muhammad, the corner. We've seen both defenses make big-time plays in this ball game today in this 30-30 tie.
Jordy Sandy, another good punt that won't be returned. Brennan Presley, the fair catch at his own 24 with 8 seconds to go. You'd think Oklahoma State would be content to take it to overtime. He was open.
He was open, but Duggan was rolling to his left. He had to stop, get his shoulders turned around, and just not able to get enough of a line on that throw. And the safety was able to come over the top and knock it away.
And he was twisting his shoulder around as if it wasn't at 100%, which probably didn't help him get the ball there either. And a big play by Jason Taylor. Game-sealing 4th quarter interception at Baylor this season. 85-yard fumble return for a touchdown in the 4th quarter of a 2-point win at Kansas State in 2020. Onside kick return for a touchdown the second half of a 6-point win against Texas Tech. A pick 6 at Texas in 2021. In an 8-point win. He's a big playmaker. He just made another one. And they do take a knee to take it to overtime. Meanwhile, Max Duggan is in their medical tent on the TCU side. This big battle in the Big 12 goes to overtime after this. Heading to overtime, TCU at one point was down 24-7. They rallied back 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter to send us to overtime. Coming up next here on ABC, number 4, Clemson, trying to win its 13th in a row. They're riding the longest active winning streak in the country. They're in Tallahassee to take on Florida State. Just a moment, we'll have the coin toss. Boy, such a good start for Spencer Sanders at Oklahoma State, and then all of a sudden the offense went flat. Here are the rules for overtime. If you win the toss, you can choose offense, defense, or which end of the field you want to play on. Each team gets 1 possession from the 25. Then the new rule this year, you must go for 2 after a touchdown starting in the 2nd overtime. They're trying to get the games over.
The game will proceed to overtime. We have the coin toss. You have a choice to go on defense, offense, or choose a side of the field. Each team will get a possession series from the 25-yard line, unless the team who's on defense first scores on anything but the try. If we go to a 2nd overtime, you have to go for 2. And if we make it to a 3rd overtime series, It's a try from the 3-yard line.
Why do we need the graphic? We should
Oklahoma
just
State,
leaned on Kevin.
You're the visitors, you'll call. That's heads and tails. Heads and tails.
Tails.
Tails? The call is tails. And it is tails. You've won the toss.
Defense.
You choose defense. Which side of the field do you want to play? You want to defend that? You want to play over there? Okay. And you'll go in defense. Switch sides. For the first series, TCU will be on offense. Good luck, gentlemen.
Teams almost always choose defense, so that they know what they have to do when they get the ball.
Well, TCU has not trailed much all year, but they trailed most of this game, and they fought back. Kendry Miller with the touchdown, and then the trick play, the pass from Duggan to Jared Wiley. Beautiful play. Here we are with momentum probably in the favor of TCU, not only the home team, but scoring late to tie this football game.
They outscored Oklahoma State 17-6 in the second half. Here's Molly McGrath.
After TCU's last drive, Max Duggan came off with visible discomfort with his right throwing arm. He tested the mobility of his arm, then threw down his helmet, yelling in frustration, but went up and down the sidelines telling each and every one of his teammates, we can win this game.
Senior Max Duggan does have a year of eligibility left. The COVID year. They start from the 25 with Miller, the running back. And Miller took the handoff and ran into a wall of Cowboys at the line of scrimmage. Mason Cobb in at the bottom of the pile. Through regulation play, TCU outgained Oklahoma State 460 to 361.
TCU ran the ball really well in that second half, up around 199 yards, but that first down play, excellent run defense by the Cowboys.
After the fake, Duggan has a man open. It's Johnston for the touchdown.
Well, the ball fake, we talked about the running ability of TCU in the second half. Safety's eyes in the wrong place. Watch this guy right here. His eyes are on the ball fake, and you're going to see a receiver run right by him in the form of Quentin Johnston. It opened up the seam. The run fake fooled the Oklahoma State defense, and why wouldn't you go to this guy? Had the game-winning touchdown a week ago against Kansas. He is a big play machine. Gets the first score of overtime.
And the important extra point added by Griffin Kell has been a big part of the story today as well. Quentin Johnston, another huge day. The young man Coach Dykes went to see. Said he's a great young man as well. His parents, Army veterans, Sherry and Carl. Sherry in Operation Desert Storm. Carl was in Kuwait back in the mid-90s. And Coach Dykes said it's obvious they raised their son right now.
Well, he is an outstanding player, a great worker. And you know, you're right. When you play overtime and you win the toss, you always take defense to know what you need. But then if they score a touchdown, the pressure is all on you, right? Because you have to respond with a touchdown.
Really on them, given that they have not had a touchdown in their last 8 possessions. They scored in their first 2 possessions, marched right down the field, no touchdowns. Their last 8 possessions, they have kicked 2 field goals in that span. Design run for their best player, Sanders, and he's tackled around the legs from behind by Jamoy Hodge after a 1-yard gain.
He took a big hit, too. He was tackled by the legs, but he took a big hit in the front as well. You know, we talk about this Oklahoma State offense and kind of slowing down. The big difference between this offense and other Oklahoma State offenses, they don't have that marquee big-time wide receiver that they've had in the past. Who's the go-to guy in a situation like this?
They've had some great wide receivers. The pass deflected and almost intercepted. That would have been ball game over. It was Dylan Horton, an outstanding defensive end, the senior from Frisco. transfer from New Mexico, being held, and he's still got a hand on it.
Dylan Horton has shown up a lot today. He's a powerful man and got a hand on that football.
3rd down and 9. Absolutely 4-down territory. Dominic Richardson, the running back, comes in to say something, perhaps hear something from Sanders. It's loud.
Here comes Horton again.
Sanders incomplete in the direction of John Paul Richardson. And for Spencer's parents, the happiness of the start of the game has transitioned to high anxiety. They must convert on 4th and 9, or the Cowboys will suffer a very tough loss, their first of the season, after leading by 17. 5 receivers, 3 to the right, timeout call by TCU.
Yeah, TCU was confused defensively. I mean, they were running all over the place with their safeties, and Joe Gillespie got a timeout at the last minute. Take a look now, right here. These 3 guys here, they're a little bit confused. Where are we supposed to go? You don't want 2 guys in the same area, that's for sure. And smartly, Joe Gillespie calls timeout to make sure they have the right people and the right defensive call on this critical 4th down play.
Spencer Sanders didn't practice all week. Got off to a hot start, but has completed 1 of his last 9. Now the 3 receivers are to his left and 2 to the boundary. Although Richardson comes to the right. 3-man rush. Sanders time, wide open receiver, and down at the 1-yard line is Braden Johnson.
Yeah, Braden Johnson just got lost. I mean, he's on the far outside, and as he runs this in route, nobody goes with him. And Spencer Sanders sees it and gets the ball where he needed to get on a big 4th down conversion.
Wow. Sanders, 1 for his previous 9. The offense with no rhythm, nothing going on at all. So much riding on that play, they convert. Now they can tie it with a touchdown and the extra point. Richardson upended, he got in. Touchdown, Cowboys.
Remember, Sean, TCU was confused, called timeout on defense, and still had a defensive breakdown on the 4th down play. Spencer Sanders made him pay for the mistake. And now Dominic Richardson gets the ball in the end zone. What an answer.
And they still need the extra point from Tanner Brown, who has never missed an extra point. .66 out of 66 career. He's still perfect. And we'll head to a 2nd overtime. And this is the situation now with the new rule that if you score a touchdown in this overtime, you have to go for 2.
Oklahoma State struggling offensively. Spencer Sanders trying to find something on 4th down. He finds a wide open Braden Johnson. And 1 play later, we're tied again.
Kevin Negandhi back in studio. We are 25 minutes away from kickoff. Jordan Travis and Florida State hosting number 4 Clemson. Primetime game on ABC. Back to Sean in that overtime thriller in Fort Worth.
Clock operator.
We're back at Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas. Wild one in the Big 12. And we're heading for the second overtime. It was TCU's choice this time as to what they wanted to do first. They chose defense. And then Oklahoma State, with their choice of which end of the field to play on, chose the other end.
A few more orange shirts on the other end of the stadium here.
One of the largest crowds in stadium history, 49,594. Sanders, flag down. And he just throws it away. And a receiver open to the right flat. Holding is the signal that Kevin Boitman is giving toward Sonny Dykes.
Holding, number 73, offense.
Jason
10-yard
Brooks.
penalty. Replay first down.
And they just took him out after that play and put Jake Springfield back in. This negative play on first down of overtime is a crusher, especially a holding penalty to put you that far behind the chains.
Well, they just made a huge 4th and 9 conversion. Brooks distraught, understandably so. They go on to have a big year. They'll look back at that 4th and 9 as a huge play in their season, maybe the biggest. But they need to pay it off, and that's on target and then knocked out. Beautiful throw by Sanders, but Braden Johnson couldn't hang on as he got hit hard by Bud Clark.
Bud Clark has shown up today. He's listed as a backup safety. They're playing without Millard Bradford, and so that's why Clark's in there more. And another nice play, knocking that ball out.
2nd and 20. We're in the second overtime. Again, 5 wide receivers. Again, just a 3-man rush. Long throw, diving attempt by John Paul Richardson. It short hopped him with Dan Diobiezor in coverage.
And see, Sean, you have to make a completion here because right now this is a very difficult field goal. I mean, so you have to complete something. That's why Spencer Sanders was so upset not with that throw.
This would be 52 yards. Brown, in his second year as their kicker, has never made one from over 50. He's 0 for 1. They don't try long ones. His career long is 49. Again, a 3-man rush and a high throw behind Johnson with Josh Newton in coverage. And now Mike Gundy has a tough decision to make. If you think your field goal kicker has the leg, you have to get points, and they're going to try that.
3-man rush, dropping 8. Not a lot of windows to throw the football out there. Good defense by TCU. He did have a completion to Presley on the left sideline. If he wanted it, it would have gotten a little bit closer for this field goal attempt by Tanner Brown.
Only one attempt of 50-plus yards in his career. Longest attempt this season is 43 from 52. He got a lot of it.
Wow.
And he made it with room to spare. What a kick by Tanner Brown, the senior from Saugus, California.
Watching him in pregame, I was so impressed. The elevation he gets on his kicks right away is impressive, and that time he just drilled it.
And he still hasn't missed a field goal this season. That's the biggest one, the longest one of his career. 49-yarder was last year against Kansas. So at least that put some pressure on TCU. You can now win it with a touchdown.
Well, here was what they did in the first overtime with the touchdown to Quentin Johnston. A little bit of a breakdown. They got fooled by the play-action fake, and the big playmaker made a big play. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Duggan tries to go back to him on this overtime period.
Andre Miller, the running back. They start with him. He breaks out of a pile.
What a run.
And powers down for about a 7-yard gain.
What a run. This was a 1-yard gain. I mean, they had it bottled up. They had him stopped, and he just didn't give up on the play. Kept churning the legs, kept powering forward. And Oklahoma State just didn't get him on the ground.
Wonder about fatigue on defense. This is a defense that was on the field for more than 100 plays last week against Texas Tech. They've defended 77 today on a 90-degree day. Miller has the first down, yanked down at the 12-yard line.
Now they brought Quentin Johnston in motion on that play. They didn't fake it to him, but it affected the Oklahoma State defense. Very aware of where number 1 is.
First and 10. Oklahoma State has kicked the field goal to start the second overtime. TCU would win with a touchdown. Nowhere to go for Miller.
You know, it's kind of a moot point, but, you know, the rules in overtime, in the second overtime, if you score a touchdown, you have to go for 2. But because Oklahoma State won the field goal, that's off the table. All they have to do is get the ball in the end zone, and the game is over.
First close game for the Cowboys this year. They started the day along with Ohio State as the only 2 teams in the country that had won every game by double figures.
Here's Quentin Johnston right here. I can't imagine that they will give single coverage on him.
Duggan pulled it back under. Duggan lunging for the goal line. Down short of the goal line.
But it'll be a first down.
Ruling on the field is that the runner is short of the goal line at the 1. First down.
What an effort. He protects the football. He takes the hit and keeps going.
Yep, down short.
But a first down and goal. What an effort.
And what a competitor. You know, he said when he lost his job, I stayed because I wanted to compete. And I told the coaches, if you need me to be the best water boy in the country, I'll be the best water boy. What a performance on a day when for a lot of the day he struggled to throw it. He's willed his team back into it. Now he's trying to get into the end zone, and they take him down for a loss.
Nice play by Tyler Lacey. Came from the backside and wrapped up Duggan. Again, on the front side, you have an extra blocker, but Tyler Lacey came from the backside and beat his block and made the play. The way you would expect a veteran like Tyler Lacey to do.
They bring Brent Matisik onto the field. He usually lines up as a fullback. And they go to a 2-back I formation, and he's in front of Kendre Miller.
Now, they got Johnson out here, and no safety help. Do they take a shot at him?
No, they give it to Miller. Touchdown! TCU wins! There is something special going on here in Fort Worth. They were 17 down in the first half, and they rallied to win. Sonny Dykes was already just the second coach ever to win his first 5 games as TCU head coach. The other was Francis Schmidt back in 1929. Now he's 6-0, and he's with Molly.
Coach, at one point you were down times to win this game. What was the game plan on that?
Really proud of the guys for hanging in there. You know, we never panicked. We just kind of kept playing and kept chipping away at the lead. They're hard to stop. Our defense really played great in the second half and in overtime. So great win for our guys. Really proud of our players.
Max Duggan took matters into his own hands, running with the football to get that first down. What kind of grit and
I mean, absolute warrior. Just remarkable what he's done, and he does for our program every day. Just couldn't be more proud of him.
Preseason, you're picked to finish 7th in the Big 12. Now you're 6-0, and look around you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, it's a great place to be. I'm just so blessed to be here around these players and people. It's just an unbelievable place.
All right, thanks, Coach. Congrats on the win.
Appreciate it.
Certainly a long way to go in the season, but Sonny Dykes has to be a leading contender right now for National Coach of the Year. And usually the first year's hard. It's a transition. Right. Other places I've been, it's been rough. Not rough here. They're 6-0. They win in double overtime. 43-40 the final over Oklahoma State. Let's send you back to the studio.
John, what a finish.